Greetings and salutations. You've successfully arrived at the Bloody Disgusting Network. The passage of time will now bring you to something strange, unique, and idiosyncratic. Have a good time.
Greetings, constant listeners, and happy holidays from the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast presented by Bloody FM, the largest podcast network out there for genre and horror shows. Pretty cool. Well, what's also pretty cool is that we're dropping a pretty great book episode on what could possibly be Stephen King's greatest book that he's released since we've started this podcast. Now, I know that that might be seen as a hot take, but we started in January of 2017, and we recorded this book episode last summer of 2024. And, let's just say that since then, he's had Never Flinch, which is the last book that we'll be covering and releasing next week, almost next month, because it'll be 2026. But this shocked us. This short story collection is just absolutely fantastic. You know, we've got just so many unnerving tales in this one. We've got Rattlesnakes, the Cujo sequel that he announced on our podcast back in 2022, if you can believe that. I still can't believe it. And, I love the short story collections. That's not a secret here on the Losers Club. I have talked about how the short story collections are what got me into Stephen King. And these are my favorite collections to cover when it came to the book episodes doing this podcast. And so I just was so happy that this collection turned out to be so good, because it couldn't, it might have gone the other way. It might have just been like, meh, it's all right. But this one just really threw me for a whirl and absolutely scared me too. There are short stories in here that I think that could rival N or even 1408. And there are some stories in here that pulled the tear ducts in ways that could rival, Last Rung on the Ladder. I hope that you've read it before you enter this 3.5 hour discussion, because we are going to be ranking it. We're going to be ranking it from worst to best, as we do with all the short story collections. But yes, this episode was recorded in 2024, and we are unlocking it finally because we are almost done with our chronological read on the main feed. And it's an emotional moment because this is the last book episode I'm on. And I wasn't on Never Flinch, and that one again comes out next month, and we'll close out and we'll be all caught up. But this is a special time, and I hope that you all enjoy this special episode during a special holiday of the year. Having the holidays are a good time, and a lot of these take place on the beach. And so if you are a South Floridian like me, you'll know that you've spent many Christmas seasons or Hanukkah seasons on the beach. I remember one time I got a boogie board, and I went out on the beach and was boogieing in the water and got sea lice for around that time. So fun times. Anyway, enough of my short stories. Enjoy Cy King's as you uncover our book episode on You Like It Darker.
My friendship to all of you precludes my involvement with any one of you. But if you wanna make love, then I do too, and I'll be right there behind you. All in the name of oh, all in the name of oh, all in the name of oh.
Greetings, constant listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Losers Club, a Stephen King podcast. I'm your host, Michael Rattlesnakes Rothman, and today I find myself on the shores of Rattlesnake Key, rolling my toes in the sand as I find steadier footing after all that turbulence on the flight over. It doesn't help that I've been having some bad dreams, too. Fortunately, I'm not alone. I got my dog Lori wading the waters over there, taking her 5th step into the ocean. But don't panic. The second I see a fin, or worse, a gator, I'll holler. Of course, it may be too late by then. I may look up and find the ocean a vast red screen, the kind that dreamers find in their nightmares. You may say that I'm a dreamer too, but perhaps I'm just a weirdo. To that I ask, where's your will to be weird? To borrow from the late bard, Jim Morrison. He was one talented bastard, at least in my eyes, but even he didn't have all the answers to life. Perhaps you do. Perhaps you're the answer man I've been seeking all along. At the very least, I hope you can slide in and appreciate a good chat. Because today, I'm looking beyond the shore, past the budding remains of Duma Key and into the pages of Stephen King's new book, You Like It Darker. His latest collection that strings together 12 tantalizing tales. 5 of them are previously unpublished, mind you, and 7 are collected from where? Well, we'll trace their roots up ahead. But first, my fellow losers, Jen, say hello, grab a beach chair, and tell us if, do you like things dark in life?
Hey, this is Jenny the Weirdo Adams. And yes, I do like things darker. I always say I thrive in darkness. I prefer cloudy days and nighttime to sunny days in summer and brightness. And anytime I'm in the office by myself, I turn the lights off. And I had a coworker where we would get in fights because every time he would leave the room, I would turn the lights on. And every time I would leave the room, he would turn them off. So we moved rooms pretty soon. But yes, I like it darker. Also, I love this title, but I cannot hear it as anything other than "You like it darker, don't you?" Like porny. You like it darker.
We had this conversation. Yeah.
We did, yeah. So you're welcome, everyone. I've ruined it for you forever.
Well, I too like dark rooms. Although I will say, if it's like an afternoon and you're in that like sort of twilight hour, and it gets a little too dark in the house, I have to turn on the light. Get a little scared. So
that's very 1408 of you.
Yeah,
know?
I just get I mean, I do get scared of the sun too. I'm
Same.
Yeah. Well, hey, that was a collection of short stories as well. Yeah, not too long ago.
That's right.
Caffrey, I see you've brought a big old Jaws beach towel, which is how fitting. Perhaps you like a little blood in your water.
This is Dan Duma Caffrey. Yes, I'm at the beach. I think this is his beachiest book since Duma Key. And it's not the last we'll see of Duma Key, which is why that's my nickname today. I do like it darker. I don't like all of our lives to be dark, but I like a darker temperature. I like light outside. I like dark coffee. If you see my coffee, it's black. I'm putting
Same
sugar
with me.
in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
You do.
Cheers.
Whoa, wait, really? Both you guys?
Yeah, Justin. Justin's drinking water.
Clear water.
Oh, I'm sorry. Our unknown guest.
Yeah, no, I feel like I barely know anyone who drinks all black coffee, but that's me, Dan, all black Caffrey. I'm wearing all black. I'm like the man in black. I'm ready to talk about some dark stories today.
Oh, we got Tommy Lee Jones over here.
Yeah. Although I don't know, I kept wondering, is this his darkest collection of stories? We'll talk.
Save
about
that thought, because that is something that we should be asking ourselves. But I'm glad you're here with us. I'm glad that we can we'll fit some time in to talk about Jaws. That'll be a good one. Even though you're not really actually holding a Jaws beach towel, I just imagine that somewhere in that collection of yours, you maybe do have a Jaws beach towel.
I think we do have a Jaws beach towel, actually. Yeah, I have all of our stuff's packed away because we're moving to New Jersey this weekend.
Oh.
But I do have like that McFarlane Jaws. I have a Funko Jaws. What else? I got the Jaws script. I've got
the Madawan himself.
Madawan, Dan Madawan Caffrey.
Are you moving to Jersey?
You're holding a Jaws beach towel,
He's definitely in his heart. Amity is that something about to do with the heart? They say that in the tagline. I can't remember. It's our Amity is something.
The friendliest little town that got eaten by a shark or something.
Yeah. Either way, got a big Jaws aficionado there, and who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it. Finally, you already heard him. Justin holding a Thomas Pynchon novel. I don't know why I used that reference, but he's already on to the next book. Please drag that chaise lounge over here and tell us if you have a dark side.
Hey, this is Justin Juniper Hill Gerber. We'll stick with the good old classic nickname. Look, I've got a dark side. I love my Floyd. I love my Dark Side of the Moon. I love my Tales from the Dark Side, of course, the George A. Romero anthology series. But no, in terms of the weather, I need that sunshine. I need it. Even today, which was kind of cooler out, it was raining. Yeah. Either I'm miserable or like very sad. I've grown so sad, like the seasonal depression, whatever it's called. I never had that growing up. I swear in the last 15 years as I've gotten older, cloudy days really do just absolutely knock me on my ass. Like I am miserable.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely gotten that way, especially in Chicago, where it has felt like we've had this perpetual London spring for the last like 3 months. Like it was 80 degrees yesterday, nice and sunny. And then today I go outside to go get something and I'm like, just in my shorts and a shirt because I thought obviously 80 degrees. No, it's like almost 40, late in the late 40s. It's just fucking ridiculous. It goes back and forth.
Sounds like
but I do think that we all hear like the dark side when it comes to Stephen King. Otherwise, why wouldn't we be here? What if someone was like, actually, I did this podcast because I really like, Faithful.
Elevation.
And I love Elevation. And I'm trying to think of some other lighthearted books.
Sleeping
Life of
Beauties.
Chuck.
Sleeping Beauties, Life of Chuck. I'm really here for just like the good stuff, Well, you're in trouble because we've got quite a dark collection ahead of us. How dark? We will debate as we go forward. As we want to do in this club, this is a tradition. It goes on nearly a decade. We can actually say that now. We're past 7 years. We could say nearly a decade. It's pretty cool. What do we do when we have short story collections? Well, we rank them. We do the old internet, listicle, except it's not really so much a listicle. Imagine this being like a fucking 90,000, 200,000 word listicle because we're going to keep talking and talking and talking. And that's what we always do with these collections. These are my favorite episodes because I love the short story collections. And hey, to my surprise, we get 2 of them this year. I forgot we have Bizarre Bad Dreams coming up. So right now, we are going to start at the bottom and move to the top to borrow from the late Drake. And before we do that, though, we need to talk about the history of the book. And it's a short history because let's just be honest. We're recording this on May 14th. The book doesn't even come out until May 21st. So, not long a history. It's not like we're going to be sitting, in 1977, Stephen King set out, actually, hold your thoughts there. We might.
Hold on.
You might. But we'll find all about it in a section we like to call the Derry Public Library.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Tell Mike Hanlon that I had to go, that I had to get cleaned up. Tell him. Tell him. Tell him I'll see him tonight.
Get out! Last chance, Toja. Get out! Get out! Excuse me now.
Here in the
Can I say
Derry.
something real quick?
Yeah.
I'm very disappointed because in our Joyland episode, I thought that going forward, it was going to be known as, was it the Tina?
Let me look it up.
What's
No,
it again?
I got it. I got the script. It's somewhere in my archives. We have to look this up because we're going to have to do this. Yeah, you're right.
Listen, the listeners know what I'm talking about, so
You're
we're
right.
not killing time. Well,
Did we not do it? Did we not do it in the...
we have not done it. I don't
Okay.
think Randall knew to do it because he's been hosting.
No.
I think he hosted the last couple since
Okay.
Joyland.
All right, you're right. Fuck the Derry Public Library. We're going to Tina Ackerley's library. All right. Well,
I love this library.
It's a great library. It's on the beach or near the beach.
Yeah, I love the beach.
You could smell that, not that Maine coastal breeze, but that Carolina coastal breeze. It's nice, a little warmer these days. I was checking my, I still have Bangor as our weather is like one of the slides. And so the other day I opened it up. I was like, oh, how cold is it outside? And it was like 38 or something. I was like, what the fuck? And then I saw there was Bangor, Maine. I was like, why do I have this still? It's been like 2 years since I've been up there. Anyway, I don't know how warm it is here in the Carolinas, but let's just say it's a nice warm day still. And hey, what better way to spend it than at Tina Ackerley's library? And what do we do here? Well, we talk about the book as a whole. I think it's important, as we do with any book episode, to paint the larger canvas, especially since this is so fresh. And, King traditionally works a little bit like Taylor Swift, where he's already a year or two beyond his latest project. But even so, it's always fun to play armchair psychiatrist with these new books because this is where he's at. This is where he's at right now because it's the freshest shit that we could possibly talk about when it comes to Stephen King. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about this release. Let's do it. As is the case with most of his collections, they tend to surface after a number of stories have simmered in the water tangentially. Everything's Eventual is a good example of that. And I'd argue You Like It Darker is akin to that collection in that a lot of what we have here has been available if you know where to look. Still, we knew something was up over the last couple of years. And why did we know something was up? Well, because King told us, if you recall, he was on this podcast back in 2022. He said, I've got a short story, or I got a story called Rattlesnakes. It's a sequel to Cujo. And that story just never surfaced, and a lot of these stories did. We saw them pop up in many places that we'll be talking about in this episode. So us over here on Rumor Control, not to be confused with the Halloweenies podcast, we thought, well, he's got to have a collection. And I think we even ruminated about it sometime last year Just After Sunset. We said, he's due. He's due for a collection. And lo and behold, he confirmed the collection on his Twitter BFFs podcast, Talking Scared, last year, which inevitably dovetailed with an official announcement through his press agency, aka Entertainment Weekly. Now, at the time of this recording, we really don't have much to stand on in terms of quotes about this collection. I'm sure a huge Rolling Stone interview or something is going to publish literally seconds after we hit stop on this Zoom, and it's going to just totally derail this entire section. But we do have a pretty great afterword to lean on. And he's admittedly transparent and personal on his end in this section. Once again, he meditates on his own process, and he answers the question he hates to answer, which is, where does he get his ideas from? And he says, am I curious about the process? Since it's played a big part in my life, of course I am. I've written about writers in my fiction, and I've written about the act of writing in nonfiction, but I still don't understand it. I don't even understand why people need stories, or why I, among many others, feel the need to write them. All I know is that the exhilaration of leaving ordinary day-to-day life behind and bonding with people who don't exist seems to be part of almost everyday life. Imagination is hungry and needs to be fed, and sometimes, again, like William Davis and the Dreamers, I actually see the words before I write them. The first paragraphs of Red Screen and Finn existed weeks and months before I actually put them down. I could see every period and comma. Does that put me on the spectrum, as they say? Maybe even, probably. But who gives a shit? Storytelling has entertained me and others over a number of years, and that makes me happy. Now, rather than tread water on this subject, he uses this as a springboard to dig deeper into why the darkness, as he writes about at large, and in this book, why the darkness has comforted him. Jen, why don't you take the next passage, and the accent is up to you.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. I don't know if I can top yours. As to why so many of my stories are about dark matter, that's another subject. Must I apologize for my material? I think not. Francisco Goya did an etching which showed himself surrounded by fantastical creatures as he dozed and called it "The sleep of reason produces monsters." I have always thought such sleep and such monsters are a necessary component of sanity. Check out the first line of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. She says it well. Horror stories are best appreciated by those who are compassionate and empathetic. A paradox, but a true one. I believe it is the unimaginative among us, those incapable of appreciating the dark side of make-believe, who have been responsible for most of the world's woes. In stories of the supernatural and paranormal, I have tried especially hard to show the real world as it is and to tell the truth about the America I know and love. Some of those truths are ugly, but as the poem says, scars become beauty marks when there is love.
What do we make of this statement?
Fuck yeah, that's awesome, and totally agree. Yeah, I want to put it on a billboard and show it to everybody I work with who's like, how can you read that stuff?
Justin, what do you make of this?
I was going to say, I just read The Psychopath Test by John Ronson. Great book, by the way. You should all read it. And he interviews many psychologists in this book, and he says that one of the big connecting factors between psychopaths is that they dream in black and white. Their imaginations are actually not as wild as I think as the media or just everyday folk will make them out to be. The people who've got great imagination, Yeah, it's like he literally says here. I don't want to get redundant, but yeah, I mean, I love this sentiment. I love this belief system that he's working out of.
You think he's saying that, Trump doesn't have a dark side to him? No, I'm just.
I think Trump might come up a couple times in his collection as well as.
I think it does.
Not that I definitely took note.
I just that's the first thing that came to mind when I was hearing about this, is that like are all his political enemies? Is he saying that like they don't they just basically amount to Darth Helmet just playing with action figures in the room or whatever, and nothing beyond that? Caffrey, what do you make of the statement?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of talking about how it relates to the title, but it's funny that he keeps coming back to this word darkness, because I think what I really pulled from this novel, or from these stories in the collection, is this sense of realism. Even in the more supernatural paranormal stories, he does seem to be digging at the everyday in a way that he hasn't in a little while for me. So I like what he's saying about just sort of the other, not the other side of America, but like the true mirror of America, because that's what I kept thinking about when reading these stories. And they're like, it's funny how they're either some of his shortest or some of his absolute longest, but I feel like that becomes this kind of thematically unifying factor, no matter what the length is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, there is something to be said about true horrors surpassing your own that you've actually, visualized and put on paper. And there is an argument. And I thought a lot about this in the sense that, there's another populist icon that I've been following big time over the last year and a half, and it's Clint Eastwood. And I was just thinking a lot about how much of the world he's seen, and how even in his 60s and 70s, he was probably grappling with things that, at least on film and in story, that were new to him and pretty unprecedented in terms of just the type of things that he thought would exist in this world. And now he's still alive in 2024. And you think about King, who is dreaming up, he's coming from, post-World War II, Cold War. He's seen things that, he's visualized things that have manifest, but in ways that are so much more disturbing. And yet it almost like we have been dulled over the years by the things that we just never expected. And there's certainly certain darknesses that even in my short time on this earth, I never assumed that I would see. And I do think that to be vigilant towards it and at least acknowledge it, and to be able to take that darkness and put it in a sandbox of sorts, there is something therapeutic about it.
That's a really good word to describe it. Like, I think he's definitely using darkness as a form of therapy, and just as a way to look at the totality of everything in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas something like Full Dark No Stars, or even a lot of his other collections, are just being nasty, which is fine too. I love Nasty King, but it seems like there's something a little bit more complicated here than just going, I want to write the meanest short story possible. Yeah. Although there are a couple in here that skew pretty mean,
that harken back
in a fun way.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I was going to say that it's probably important to remember that you should always remember that others have it worse.
That is true. Hey, look, that's a commentary for a future story that we may or may not be talking about. Spoiler alert, we definitely will. So I think if we've learned anything from doing this podcast for nearly a decade and a half, is that old habits do die hard. And in this afterword, King's self-deprecation comes back. And in a way that I was actually kind of taken back by it. Justin, why don't you read this next passage?
I've been called prolific, which constant readers of my work consider a good thing, and critics of it sometimes consider a bad one. I never meant to be. I never meant not to be. I've done what was given to me to do, and mostly it's been a joy to me. The only drawback, call it the fly in the ointment or the fatal flaw, if you want to be highfalutin, is that the execution has never, no, not one single time, been as splendid as the original concept. The only two times I even came close to getting it all were in two prison stories, The Green Mile and Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. All the others fell short of what I wanted for them. Even with long novels such as It, The Stand, and Under the Dome, I finished with the sense that a better writer would have done a better job. Still, on measure, I'm proud of what I've done. And I'm proud of my short fiction. Probably because they've always been hard for me.
I mean, that's it's pretty sobering to see this. You know, he's 75, 76. You're still wrestling with things that we've talked about in his 80s work. I mean, this sounds a lot of like his interviews from like the 80s, especially post It, you know, where he was referencing himself as, you know, McDonald's. And obviously since then we've talked about how even at that point, it's ridiculous to say that. I mean, he had so many, you know, not to say literary works, but certainly works that you could argue are outside or live outside the vacuum of the genre fiction realm. And I just, it made me appreciate some things in this, because I just think maybe we never do shake our insecurities.
Nah,
you know,
never.
and there's something nice about that. Like there's, I think growing up, it's kind of like the parents thing. It's like, we all think, oh yeah, no, they're going to, you know, they're the hardened saviors. And then you realize early on that they're not. And it's the same thing with the insecurities. It's like, we all act like we're going to grow out of them. We don't, you know?
I was thinking about, one of my playing professors in grad school always said that if you're lucky as a player, if you're really lucky, you'll have one, maybe two plays that just kind of flow out of you and then don't need much revision beyond that. And that's if you're very lucky. And I found that to be true. Like, I think I have one for me. And to hear him say that, and this is a very successful guy, younger than King, but yeah, in his 60s, almost 70. And I think it's important to hear your mentors talk like that also, because that does humanize them in a way. I mean, I think that's what makes King great, is the everyman quality about him. I mean, obviously he's very rich and very famous and everything, but I think as far as celebrities of that status goes, he's done a very, very good job about staying connected to his roots, about continuously, you know, holding up people who need it a lot more than him, about working with new writers, all that good stuff. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent, but I feel like that, I don't know, I feel like that admission, it doesn't feel like humble bragging. I think it's just keeping himself honest. And I do believe it when he says that too. And once again, all these stories even have an everyday quality about them. And so for me, that just kind of ties back to like the workman-like nature of everything that he does.
Justin.
Yeah, there's something very pleasing about reading this the way that he writes it, because there's two different ways he could have written this. One is, actually, I suck, as opposed to
nobody likes me.
I'm good, but even I know I'm not perfect. You know, I think that even a lot of stan culture out there could probably stand to read that. If anything, though, the most beautiful passage I read of this is when he says, even with a long novel such as It and The Stand, because once again, Jen, the meetings in The Stand are so boring, and even he acknowledges, like, you cut those out. I mean, it's a better book, and maybe a better writer would have done it better.
No. Hear me out. Take them, expand them, and then it's an epistolary novel written from the perspective of the meeting notes. Perfect. Yeah.
So it'll be
like, you know what? Honestly, that's fine. It'll be like the Secret Diary of Laura Palmer. Sounds good.
Yeah.
You keep that separate from the story.
Page.
That's right.
Yeah. I think it really makes me just want to read the original like versions that he has in his head, you know, because he's listing some of my favorite books, you know, and like to think that they're not what he wasn't able to quite capture it. But it also reminds me of something I heard Idina Menzel talk about, who originated Elphaba, and she's Elsa, and she's just this incredible Broadway star, and she's like,
the wickedly talented.
I was waiting for somebody to do wickedly talented.
Adele Dazeem, yeah. But she's like, if I'm singing like 100,000 notes a night, you know, I might miss 5 of them, and that's still really good. So when you think about how many words he has put on a page to not capture every single one perfectly the way he had in mind, like he's still batting like a million. I'm not sure if that's right baseball, but you know.
Well, with Mr. Baseball himself.
Yeah, that's right.
Take it away.
Oh, thank you. They call me Blockade Justin. Blockade Justo.
You keep swallowing soap, right?
Here.
Blockade Justy.
Yeah, I think that all of us as human beings we are, like Lit once sang, our own worst enemy. Yeah. And this insecurity things, I don't know, it's really comforting to me in a way, because we do overthink things, and we overthink things more than we. At least I do. I think I overthink things way more than I do just giving a soft analyzation of something. But that's an insecurity of mine, you know? So, yeah, like I said, it's something to say that you can be relatable in some way, in a way that doesn't feel condescending or like they're trying to connect. But this just seems natural. Like, even though he's arguably the most popular author of the last century, there's still a connection he can make with his readers.
Yeah, which is staggering. I mean, especially this hour. Jen.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes him such a good writer, at least the writer that I like, because we've talked a lot about how he is an extremely empathetic writer. And the fact that he has not lost that humility, I think, allows him to connect with characters that may not have that much in common with him, and makes him keep trying to do new things, keep trying to better himself, keep going. Because, I mean, at this point, he could put out whatever he wants and we would still read it, but like to put out a collection this strong at this point in his career, I think tells us that he's still trying to make it perfect. He's still chasing that ideal story. You know?
I've thought a lot about this, especially when it comes to this book, is that there is a freedom that comes with that, but also a terror. You know, like I think about this a lot of the times with like musicians that I love, you know, like Springsteen. You know, long enough timeline, you do become a parody of yourself. And I think that there's definitely moments in anyone's career that has that long standing relationship with music, you know, fans and the culture. There are moments where you go, yeah, you're spinning the wheels here, or, oh, you know, you've done this before. This is well-worn territory, or even worse, like, oh, this is a joke version of yourself. And I do think he has that on his mind. I think that he probably thinks to himself, like, all right, well, because even the way he talked about, you know, it and the clown with us on the interview, you know, he's like, oh, I'll die, but that fucking clown will still live. Like, I'm sure he still fears that he's the guy that it's like the Family Guy trope of like, oh, I'm the one that made Killer Cars, made this. And so for him to keep thinking of the nuances, and especially this late on, I mean, think of it this way. I don't know any musician even that releases something every fucking year into this type of level of detail and depth. And that's pretty unreal. And to keep having to go back to the well and go, all right, what's, you know, look back at the abyss to keep it darker. And you keep shouting and hoping that something's shouting back at you. I think after 50 something years of doing it, this is the 50th anniversary of Carrie. He's certainly been doing this since the 60s. I mean, I'm only almost 40 years old and I'm already getting tired of things that I've done over and over again. So I can't imagine that fear. And I know I say fear for lack of a better word, but anxiety, I think that's maybe a better word. But just he knows that he can write, but the question of what is he going to write? I do think these insecurities, what keeps him, as we've been saying, keeps him honest.
Well, relating back to this book is that, yes, Mike, like you said, he could, and he has just been writing something and publishing something for the last 50 plus years. Yeah. But for me to know that he still has this in him, right, is extremely comforting. And I have a feeling that this is going to get some very good notices. And I hope that I know you should never read your own reviews, but I hope that he takes some of the more positive ones in, because I have a good feeling about this reception.
Yeah, me too.
I think so too. And yeah, spoiler alert. And granted, I know it's cheating a little bit because it's a collection, and like you said, a lot of it was released already, but a lot of it wasn't. And I mean, for my money, I think this is his best work since Revival, maybe since 11/22 for me.
I would agree with you.
I mean, I really do. Like, and that's not enough. And he's had a lot of really good books since then. I'm not saying he hasn't put out anything good in the past decade, but I was just astounded how much I love this and how he was operating at a level with some of these stories I hadn't seen him operate at. And to your guys' points about, oh, how can he challenge himself? How can he not repeat himself? I think putting something like Rattlesnakes in here, which is a sequel to one of his most famous books ever, and not retreading that at all, like, and then actually making it a sequel to one of his other more non-famous books as well. I almost feel like he rose to the challenge of, okay, I'm going to make this a sequel, but I'm not. It's not going to be like a legacy sequel. It's not going to be a reboot. It's not going to be full of Easter eggs.
It's going to be like Ted Brodigan showing up in The Dark Tower 7.
Yes. Yeah. No, but seriously,
it really is. It's not. It's not Cujo. It's not Heartlands 2. It's a different story.
It's such this new thing. So I feel like by giving himself this challenge of not repeating himself, and once again, this Rattlesnakes was one of the pieces that didn't appear before this, so I kind of count this as like being the big original swing for it. yeah, when I think about that, I'm like, man, he still got it. He challenged himself, and he, in my opinion, I know we're not on the stories yet, he exceeded that challenge. And not only that, just did it in a way that I could have never predicted. Because when I first heard that it was called Rattlesnakes and that it was about a grieving widower in Florida, and it was a Cujo sequel, I'm like, what is this going to be? And it was, I could not have predicted what it was going to be. I'm very excited to talk about that later.
Yeah. Well, or how much I would love it too.
Let's talk a little bit about the themes of this book. We've already kind of hitting on them. You know, mortality is a big one. I think you see a lot of repeating, recurring elements throughout these stories. I think fate is a big one. You know, where you end up, where you think you're going to end up. What else do we see here? You know, what are some other ones, Justin?
It's not that every character shares this trait, but I think most of the main characters of this book, they're older.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with Finn is an exception, and some other ones maybe. But if the main character isn't presented as being in the 60s or 70s, maybe the second or third most important character of the short story is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and there's this element of these older characters, are they a burden, or what happens at the end of their life? And I think when I think back to If It Bleeds, I kind of thought a lot about parallels to his older work, and I kind of saw that as the end of a phase of kind of looking at where he's come in his career and kind of making peace with death, making peace with the fact that there's going to be a day where I stop writing. And I think this is kind of beyond that. And when I think the theme of the novel, if I had to sum it up, it's on the last page and it made me cry. It was, I think we go on, and I think that's kind of what this is exploring is, do we go on after we've left our lives behind, after our personalities, our jobs, we are in retirement now, and what happens next? And I think that's kind of where he is now in his own life. And he's kind of exploring the horror of that,
I think also, Mike, you had mentioned the unknown and fate and luck and chance. And it's funny because it goes between different extremes. In a story like The Dreamers, the unknown is, the Lovecraftian version of that, right? Mm-hmm. It's this cosmic kind of unknown. But then also you have just flat out, gambling luck in this, and just chance in a more almost whimsical kind of way. And so for me, and then hearing about what you're saying about aging too, Jen, I think it's about dealing with the unknown and in all of its facets and what that can mean. It's death, but it's also just what luck is, and how do you make your own luck, or is luck just a device that we place onto nihilistic strokes of chance to make sense of it. And those are all sub themes he's dealt with before. It's not like, the Dead Zone, right, deals with that too. Yeah. It's not like he's never dealt with these before, but I feel like that's the common factor between all of these stories. It's this sort of grappling with the unknown and showing all the colors of that. Once again, it's not just, death is coming to get me, although there is some of that. It's not just, luck is a conceit and fate is a conceit, although there is some of that. It's not just, everything does have a purpose. It's all of those things. So it's this weird, showing the subtle nuances and shades and varieties of kind of that overall arching theme.
Yeah, there's no real morality that I feel like is being shaken too much in these stories, which is kind of, it's not nihilism, but I think there's this sort of passivity that comes with age, where you just go, it is what it is, or as they say in The Irishman, it's what it is. And I kind of like that. I want to get there.
There's not a lot of judgment being placed on these characters. Where I think we've definitely read some King in the past where he's a little transparent. Yes. And the judging, instead of just presenting, he's just presenting these characters as they are. Granted, some of these people, for me, are fairly evil. Mm-hmm. Some of them, though, appear to be fairly decent people. But there's no real definition.
Well, and if we're looking at all sides of chance and fate and everything else, the reality is sometimes fate and luck really plays into your own hand in a way that almost feels surreal, right? I've had days where everything's gone way better than I thought it was going to be. Things I thought were going to be catastrophes were not. Mm-hmm. And I have other days like anyone else where something horrible out of the blue happens and you can't really control that either. And I think as you get older, it's not so much about being an optimist or a pessimist or whatever else. It's sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. And I think sometimes when it does go our way, there's the temptation to narrativize it and to say it's all part of some bigger plan in this. But then it's like, well, if we do that when that happens, we also have to do it when it goes the other way, which can be hard to accept, right? Like, and by that I mean, oh well, if the good stuff is all part of some big plan, then the bad stuff has to be too, and that kind of levels the playing field and makes the idea of luck and chance and fate a lot scarier in many ways.
Yeah, and I feel like
go for it, John.
Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Wasn't it? I think with Bizarre of Bad Dreams, I think that collection is about morality. Like there's a lot of judgment and a lot of examining. There's even a story called Morality in that. And so this one feels like he feels like a passenger and watching other people's morality, as opposed to feeling pressure to make a judgment on things or to say something in quotation marks. It's like, and that's why there's like, some of these stories are so horrifying and they're so disturbing, but there's also like a peacefulness to them because you feel like you're kind of drifting on this like really kind of upsetting piece of driftboard, but you're also just kind of watching it go, and there's no need to really have a really strong opinion about any of it, you know?
Justin.
I just think there's a confidence he has in these characters, especially in the longer ones, the novellas. I'm sure we'll be debating what the hell constitutes a novella and short story, as we've been doing for the last 7 years on this podcast. But yeah, there's a confidence, especially in the ones where he's able to kind of draw these characters out a little bit more versus red screen. That's what's called, right? Where he can't really spend that much time with them, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
What do we make about the title? You know, You Like It Darker. Obviously, huge Leonard Cohen fan. But beyond that, you know, the one thing I could think about was something that we mentioned in 2022 when we spoke to him. You know, I didn't necessarily say if he pulls his punches, but I did talk about how, you know, ever since the accident, it does feel like the good guys win more, you know, and it's the evil is the one that kind of gets in the corner. And it led to the revelation of rattlesnakes, because that's what he wanted to bring up, transgressive horror, and basically talk about how he still got it in terms of just, you know, having a mean streak. I wonder, you know, maybe it's just biased just because there was that part of that discussion and we got privileged to have that piece, but it did feel like this collection's kind of a heat check in that way. Am I alone in that? Like,
I got an instant message just now from King.
Oh my God.
AOL, AIM.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
I'm still on there. And he
What's
just
his
said,
what's his handle?
It's You Like It Kinger. Which is a little, I wonder if he just changed it.
I probably did.
Is it like a 69 at the end of it? Or like,
No. It's
like
at
a
74.
69.
I think it was in honor of Carrie. And he
Pound
says,
Cake 69.
Justin, if it wasn't
That's his
for
alt.
my chat with the Losers Club,
All right.
this would have been called You Like It Lighter.
You lied.
Oh, let me type back. Thank you.
I know it's there are gonna be people that roll their eyes when I mention that, but
No,
it's
but I'm not
it's the
kidding.
first thing that came to mind.
It is
just
funny though
Yeah.
I feel like that interview happened, and then like less than a year later, the name of this collection came out. I did think it was an interesting coincidence.
you know.
Yeah.
Cohen.
And Mike, not just because of what
Cohen.
that's right. Not, and he also passed away. Not just because of the interview itself, too, right, Mike? But just because of things that we've been saying for the last
Yes.
few years. You know what I mean? And we know that he listens, and if he's listening now, he will confirm that he just reached out to me.
He did.
Well, he'd be like, it's
That
actually
is his alt title.
yeah. He'd have to be a patron, which would be wild considering
Oh.
that we
Oh,
just
that'd be great.
switched the tiers, and I imagine he just lost his mind when he was when the tiers changes were happening.
Oh, I think I was
Caffrey.
losing my mind too.
Well, thinking about the title, as I said before, Full Dark, No Stars, I think of dark as being just the idea of like, no, these are dark in the EC Comics kind of way. They're just full on nasty, which I love. I love that collection. And like I said, a couple of nastier stories here too, Red Screen being one of them, just kind of that quick sting, get in, get out. But I guess I thought of the term darker here. For me, it relates back to what we were just talking about, the idea of the unknown. So when I think about the darker, I'm thinking about like the Prim, right? I'm thinking about the outer reaches of space.
Yeah.
All these characters grappling with what's beneath this surface. I mean, yeah, it could be darker in terms of tone or the level of tragedy exhibited here. But I think because it never gets as dark as Full Dark No Stars, and once again, I'm probably putting words in his mouth. I'm not saying this is definitely what it is, but for me, it was more like dark in the prehistoric, complex sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, which I like. I kind of like that. I think it's almost easy if he just wants to be nasty. Like I agree. I do think he's bringing the heat a little bit. He's turning it up a little bit because on its surface, yeah, Rattlesnakes is very transgressive in many ways. It's like, okay, there are 2 dead kids at the center and there's a lot of grief in that book and everything else. But once again, I don't think that story is completely dark in the nasty sense of the word. I think it is about moving through something. And that to me much more ties to the way I'm thinking about darkness or the term darker and just like the outer reaches that we don't really quite see unless we're challenged to rise to the occasion.
Jen.
Yeah. Well, there's like a juxtaposition too, because I feel like so many of these stories are like sun bleached, like it feels very horror in the daylight to me. And when I think about Full Dark No Stars, there's so much that's hidden in those stories. Like there's it's more about like secret darkness. And here it's all just out there in the open. And that to me, it feels like King is saying maybe that is darker. Maybe the fact that we're just putting it out here. I am murdering somebody in the middle of a park, or like you turn a corner and there's an alligator eating some dude's brain. Like the fact that it's just out there and that nobody is trying to cover it up or nobody's trying to help is even darker, even though it's appearing in the bright sunshine. I think some of my favorite horror is horror in the daylight because you think you're safe, and I think I talked about like the peace and the relaxation I feel here, but then when it hits you like out of the blue, like, oh fuck, that dude's brain,
I think it's interesting that, and we'll get into the quotes and King's thoughts on each different story, at least ones that we have, that based on all the 12 that we have coming up, the one that seems to get under his skin is when he does have some sort of feeling towards the darkness, because every one of these stories contends with the objectivity that darkness is going to exist. It is an immovable force. It is a thing that is just a factor of our lives that we have to contend with, whether or not we like it. There's no emotion behind it. It just is. But the one story where I do think that gets him, and I think it probably gets a lot of us, is in The Dreamers. And when he talks about this darkness as being this, the sort of unknown that is a much larger, almost gets into Midworld Dark Tower-esque modes where it's so consuming and so beyond our rational thought that it is hard to not have the emotions and investment tied to it, because if we fear what we can't understand. And if this is, as the Dreamers suggest, this is the fabric of the universe beyond everything, and it has that sort of evil to it, and maybe that explains why there are things in this world that are how they are. What are we to do if we're so passive to it? What can we do? There's nothing to do. We just have to accept it. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why particularly he says that story is the one that he couldn't shake, and whereas everything else is more of just the mutability of life. Justin.
Well, I love that I think The Dreamers runs right into The Answer Man, right?
Does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like these stories couldn't take place in more different universes in terms of what's beyond, because I don't think that the world that The Answer Man is talking about in the titular story, The Answer Man, relates to what is discovered in The Dreamers.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. It's almost like you needed the Answer Man to be able to put
wash
the
it
walls
off,
back.
yeah.
Like, remember, these are just stories.
Yeah.
They're not all. This is not literally what I think is going to.
Let's close these guys' eyes.
Yeah.
But sometimes you like it darker.
You do.
Dreamers is there for you.
It's funny. I kept thinking about how he arranged the stories in Just After Sunset with the playing card. Right? Is that the one with the playing cards?
That's the.
There's Everything's
Eventual. I think it's the playing cards. Yeah.
I kept wondering how he decided on the sequencing for this, because I really love how these are sequenced.
Yeah.
He kind of feels like he's gearing up for a lot of the time, which I appreciate, like kind of building out. And I kept thinking, like, oh man, ending on the Dreamers is much different than ending on the Answer Man. If you choose to read it in order. And I love that we end on the Answer Man because that to me feels much more, I mean, I don't personally know Stephen King, but from what I know about his writing, that feels like the truest version of where he's at in terms of how he views life right now.
Yeah. Well, and even tying back to Pet Sematary, because he asks, and we go on in Pet Sematary, or I think we go on, which I think is one of his darkest novels, and the other of his darkest novels, I think, is Revival, and The Dreamers is like a twinner to Revival. Like, there's so much similar there. It's got one of, I don't want to spoil anything, but like the ending is
don't worry.
fucking dark.
I still think about that ending.
Oh yeah, well, and I think. It's like this is the brighter version of both of those stories, but the darkness is still there. Like the thread of darkness pervades it,
Well, to quote legend, of course, you can't have light without darkness.
Yes, that's a very truth. You can't have good without evil.
Tell me more.
So you guys are all talking about sequencing, and I know that later this year, the Joker himself returns with Folie à Deux. Yes. But let's just say that there's a Joker here, a Folie à me, because I read this out of order. And I've never done that before with the short story collection. I've never done it. I didn't do it with Night Shift. I didn't do it with Skeleton Crew. I've always gone sequentially. But let's just say I was a little bit of a troublemaker. And when we got the copy, I was so excited to read Rattlesnakes that I jumped ahead to that. And then it became this game of before bed thinking, what can I read before my eyes fall? Like, what can I get down? And so the last story I saved was Danny Coughlin, which is one of the longer ones here beyond Rattlesnakes. Oh, wow. And so but thinking back on the sequentially thing, it's funny that this is the book I did that too, because to me, reading these all out of order, it does feel very akin to Everything's Eventual, because Everything Eventual is very similar in the sense that there are a lot of stories that were published in the New Yorker that he collected, and there aren't that many original stories in Everything's Eventual. I think there's only 2 or 3 or 4. I'd have to go back in my notes. It's been 2 years, but it is interesting to think of that decision, and that was a conscious decision. And I think that makes me appreciate this novel or this collection even more. I did want to, we got to wrap this up because we got 12 fucking stories to talk about. And we've already gone an hour almost in this, but I did want to end one more thing. You mentioned this earlier, Caffrey, is this his darkest collection? We don't have to go too far into it, but where do you stand, Justin?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
There's like we've been alluding to this whole time. There are some nasty moments in this, but I wouldn't identify most of these stories as nasty.
Okay, Caffrey.
Yeah, I would say Skeleton Crew's darker than this. Yeah. Maybe even Night Shift, although Night Shift skews a little bit more sentimental than Skeleton Crew does. If we're not counting Full Dark No Stars.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. Yeah, I guess that's probably his darkest, I would imagine. But
I think the novellas, it's got to be Full Dark No Stars.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty fucking gnarly collection. But yeah, I always forget how dark Skeleton Crew is, just based on Jen.
Jaunt alone.
Yeah.
The Milkman, I think Skeleton Crew is his darkest, even though it does have bright spots, like Mrs. Todd's Shortcut is, I don't think, dark. But this one feels bleak, though, in a way that I really enjoy. And there are moments of heart, but it feels, I don't know, I just see, somebody getting murdered on a beach when I read this,
Yeah.
I know we're now in the part where we're just going to start naming literally every collection, but if you really think about Night Shift,
it's pretty dark.
It is dark, yeah.
Even the dramas too. And the horror, it's still like Last Run on the Ladder and Woman in the Room are still very dark.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that might be the darkest overall.
We'll have to save it for when we finish our run, and we'll have to really, decide. But right now, we can rank them. We can rank these stories. And we've got 12 stories up ahead. We all gave our lists. And I went through them. I did my own Gerbalytics, and let's just say it's kind of easy.
No, good.
We have some variables. We definitely have some variations here, but it was very interesting to see how similar, because it was all cold. I didn't look at they all came in and no one saw any of the other rankings. So this is all, this is like voting in America,
Wait, are you saying it was easy because we were all similarly ranking stories, or that Gerberlytics itself is easy?
No, I would never say the Gerberlytics are that is
patented.
Yeah, no, it's definitely complex.
TM,
it's like
yeah.
it's like trying to understand pi. Just put a
3.16
drill in my
what?
head.
I mean,
well, let's get to them. We're going. We say worst to best, but for those that get upset with the word worst, we could say, the ones we liked least.
Least favorite.
Best.
And the least favorite. And our favorites. So I hate to say it. Number 12, it's not Millie Bobby Brown. It's not Gaten Matarazzo. It's not Joe Curie. It's not even the Duffer Brothers. No, we are talking about Wolfhard, Finn. Number 12, Finn.
Huh.
So this one, originally released as a 2022 ebook exclusive to Scribd. You all covered this in the
I was on the
Barrens.
episode.
I
Jen,
think
you were on there, right?
I was too, yeah.
I think Caffrey was too.
No, this is
not
my
for-
first time reading Finn.
So maybe it was Flieger that was on that one, but I know Randall was on it too. But we just unlocked this one in the main feed to tease this episode. But Jen, what is this story about?
A 19-year-old with incredibly bad luck gets mistaken for another bloke, kidnapped and tortured by some mob-style goons, but maybe his luck is turning.
So here's what King said of the story. At the time he tweeted, quote, Finn is out today on Scribd. Promo code gets you a 60-day free trial to check it out. https://try.scribd.com/king60.
No rock left unturned on this podcast.
No rock left unturned. And then if you remember in the afterword, one of the sections that we read earlier, he said the first paragraphs of Red Screen and Finn existed weeks and months before I actually put them down. I could see every period and comma. Now, I say that line because I think it's pretty apt. Because for me, my issue with Finn, which I ranked last, is I feel like this is more of an idea and a situation than an actual story. But am I alone in this feeling? Jen?
Yeah, I think this feels like a snapshot, and I think about similar stories like In the Death Room has similar vibes, but that feels like it's got more of an arc to it. And I think this is maybe the most hopeless or most nihilistic story, I think. I'm probably going to say that about everyone as we go along, but like I did like it a lot more than I was expecting to on reread. And I still do like this story. I think if not for the twist at the end where we don't know what the actual fate is, there's this implication that maybe he is,
Still there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is interesting, but the rest of it, there's just a feeling of powerlessness in the story that's really hard to keep going with,
Wait, I've read this twice. Spoiler alert, I don't think there are actually any, I wouldn't say there's any bad entries in this collection.
I agree, yeah.
This came at number 11 for me, though. This is one of my least favorite, as we would say on Twitter, to not make people want to kill themselves. But I didn't get I've read it twice. I didn't get the Owl Creek ending that you're referring to. I thought that he definitely got out. I thought that it was just more open-ended about, was he going to hurt himself upon jumping? I didn't.
I got the sense that it was possibly something that you could throw out there, like the King inference that he always does.
The occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge ending is what it sounds like.
The idea that all this could be snapped up and you could still be in there and then it's a dream. And the fact that he threw that out there as a tease is something that you could maybe question. But I think the darker implication is that that's what he's always going to think about in his life going forward.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I could see it being that much bleaker. I think on the note of the Owl Creek Bridge thing, I think the most interesting thing about this story for me is that Owl Creek Bridge short story, one of my biggest regrets when we, God, I hate bringing up this interview all the time, but when we spoke to him, one of my biggest regrets is not mentioning this story and asking him if this is how he feels to this day, because he has referenced this going back to college, going back to the Hearts in the Suspension graphic. This has been on his mind. And I wonder if this is how he feels with his own success and just with where he is in life, if that he's going to one day wake up and all of it was, he is back before any of this stuff happened. All these good things. If he wonders if they are going to be yanked away like they are in that Owl Creek Bridge short, which is funny because it's not even really a Twilight Zone. It's a short film that became a Twilight Zone episode. But anyway,
it's based on a short story.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Or maybe that he didn't survive the accident.
And I think he thinks that too. I mean, I think that it's just I kick myself every time I see it come up again because I'm like, fuck, like this, it is a recurring element with him. And I feel like that the sentiments that he has at the end of Finn is something that he shares. That's my,
for our younger listeners, does Stephen King think he's actually in the Matrix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just watched that with my kids the other day, and they liked it.
The original one or the new one that everyone
original
says
one.
is better than the original one? Oh, okay.
The original one, and then I made them
I'm
watch
the only
car
one that
chase
thinks
from
the
two.
new one's better than the original one.
Oh,
but
did you? I forgot you had that
I'm
day.
going to die on 100%.
I still haven't
Wow.
seen the new one.
Well, it's not better than the original.
Well, so
Right.
should we?
Original's all right.
If you don't know what the occurrence of Owl Creek Bridge is, just go watch the Twilight Zone episode. You could go find it somewhere. I'm sure it's on Hulu or something. But we essentially what happens is there's somebody that's going to be hung. The hanging's happening, the rope snaps, and you watch him get away this whole time, only for it to end with the thing actually being hung. And so I've spoiled the episode for you. But
and he mentions
it's
that
also-
in the story, so it's
Yeah.
He
does. He does.
I do think he could go a little further with it. Like
I
he
agree.
does just kind of throw it out to the point where you could miss it or just think that this weird guy who's, I don't know if he's all there and he just got tortured. Maybe he is just wanting to jump off a slide, So.
I agree. I mean, I think I ranked this 11 also. And same thing, I don't think there's a dud in the bunch, but it does feel a little bit slighter to me. Like I want to go a little bit harder. And if we're looking at how it examines fate and luck and everything, it almost feels like the Training Wheels version of it compared to some of the other stories here. It's kind of just like, okay, he's horribly unlucky, but also could have this stroke of luck here and there. Like it doesn't go super far beyond the surface for me.
Well, it feels
I said
like
it was inoffensive.
Yeah.
That's what I could have found it.
it feels like a precursor to Bobby Coughlin, which feels like a smaller version of The Outsider. So it's like themes that he's explored before. It did make me hungry though. Like reading about that breakfast and the mushrooms. I was like,
I was going to bring that up later. Save that thought because
Yeah.
I
I know what you're
want to
talking
talk
about,
about some food a little bit. Any other thoughts? I mean, for me, what was surprising was that when I was doing programming and I saw there's this ebook, I assumed this is so long, like a much longer story. And for reading this, I was like, I can't believe we did a full episode on this.
Oh, we sure did.
story.
we really
did.
did. I thought you were going to say, what I thought was that Finn Wolfhard wrote this.
Well,
That's what I
He
first
ghost wrote it.
I think for promoting this episode, we did the middle finger of Finn Wolfhard, but like with the Finn. The
we
title Finn
absolutely
ahead of
did.
it or whatever. So
yeah.
I will admit, I did see Finn Wolfhard as the main character.
Absolutely.
Anyone else get like Black Phone vibes though? Because of, I mean, it came out around the same time as the Black Phone, also the movie. So I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah. Any other thoughts on Finn?
No, we've
all I
been
got
hawking
for you.
this one.
Oh, actually, if you want to hear some more
Oh yeah,
from me and Jen, we were on the hour-long episode on this short story.
Yeah.
That's
So
right,
you'll hear
yeah.
all about
that
it.
is true. Which is in the main feed now, so you can go listen to it. Which would be hilarious if you're listening to this on Patreon, and that was a Patreon exclusive episode, and you're like, "Oh, I'll go listen to it on the main feed." It's on Patreon.
Right.
Just go find it in there. Anyway,
Talk about a Twitter universe.
Jesus. Well, number 11, we mentioned it already in conjunction with Finn. Red Screen. This is another ebook. This one arrived a year earlier in 2021. Jen, what is this one about?
Detective Wilson questions a man who murdered his wife because he believes she's been possessed by nagging aliens triggered by sinister red screens. Then he goes home to his own nagging wife.
So at the time, King tweeted, quote, "Want to read a new short story by me? It's called Red Screen. Scary, creepy. Go to Humble Bumble and find it there. The money goes to the ACLU." And, I want you to remember also that this, along with Finn, was one of the stories that he had the first graph for months before writing it. And I say the same thing as I said about Finn. I feel like this is more of an idea than a story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I think it has a little bit more meat than Finn in terms of just, what the world he's building at least, but I don't know, it just feels a little slight to me. Like I think that there's a really cool idea here, but it felt like I was watching you're watching like Invasion of the Body Snatchers and you stop the movie at like 15 minutes in.
I have the exact same. My note was Invasion of the Incel Snatchers.
Yeah.
And I wrote the same thing. I wish this one was longer. I would actually be interested in an adaptation of this.
Yeah.
Because there's been three really solid body snatcher movies, and they haven't been the same exact story. There's been, alterations, and I think I'd be fine if you wanted to do like a fourth version with more of this take in it.
Like kind of a Stepford Wives-y kind of vibe to it too.
Yeah, but if you want to make it even ironic or something too, I don't know.
Maybe you could make a TV show out of it, because they made Haven out of the Colorado Kid.
Oh man,
and there's really nothing much there in terms of, hey, let's go make a TV show out of this.
Yeah,
but hey, maybe there is
talking.
There's definitely some table setting with this one.
Haven also didn't have an ending.
The show didn't? Oh, interesting.
Just like the Colorado Kid didn't have an ending.
Wow. They didn't solve it. But that's the point. It's the journey. No, I'm just all right. Caffrey, you got this the highest. Do you care to defend Red Screen?
Yeah, I mean, would it have this at 9? It
was a 9, but yeah.
Yeah, 9, so not super high. But
put on the jacket.
No, this feels the most EC Comics to me. I think it works as a really bite-sized piece. I like the ending a lot. It is a genuinely shocking stinger. I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to be like a white knight here. I don't know, I paused a little bit this idea of, oh yeah, menopause is like conflating that with like alien invasion whatever. Yeah. It just felt, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I may be like being a little too sensitive about that, but it felt like a little misinformed doing that. But
no, you said
overall,
it,
I still really enjoyed it. Yeah, just once again, kind of another slight version. But I do like the kind of gotcha moment at the end of it. I mean, that worked well for me.
Yeah, I had this at number 12.
It's dead last.
But again, like I like the little stinger.
The stinger's
a short
great.
story. If this was 120 pages, I probably wouldn't have liked it. In terms of how it is in this short form. I just said I want it to be longer, but I do think there's more to explore in this world if you wanted to. You know what I mean? But God, there is a danger in that though. If they really do lean into the incels somehow being like truly right the whole time, so good luck.
Yeah
Good luck.
It'd be like a nightmare version of Men, which is already a nightmare version of itself. Jen,
I love Men.
Oh really? God.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to blow my brains out reading that.
Which I completely understand.
I've heard such polarized reactions from people. Like I have no idea.
The only reason why I wanted to blow my brains out is because Alex Garland was already hitting my head so hard with the fucking metaphor. So it's like, take me already. Take me.
It's a big old hammer,
Yeah.
It is interesting. I think the story does kind of have similar flavor to it, and I do like this. I think I maybe like it more than y'all. I think the thing that I like the most about it is there's just this really eerie feeling of like how quickly your husband could turn on you, and like, am I going to nag one too many times and then all of a sudden I'm dead, and I think that feels really eerie to me. But yeah, I think it's just there's not a lot here. And when I think about, I hate to keep talking about Bizarre Bad Dreams, but The Bad Little Kid kind of has similar vibes to this, but that's like a more complete story. I feel like he follows the thread there. And I don't know if I want him to do this here because I don't really want to see him turn against his wife. Like I kind of really like him just ending it there, but it's just, I don't know. It feels, I think slight is a good word for it.
Yeah, it's kind of, we talked about Invasion of the Body Snatchers 78 over on Halloweenies, which we unlocked last year for 45th anniversary. I think I'm doing the math right. And one of the things we discussed was the idea that when you did conform, and I think this is a point that Caffrey, you went really heavy on, was that there is really nothing evil about what, the idea of the conformity. It's actually like their life is almost better. Mm-hmm. And there's this sort of idea that if you did accept the other side, it kind of takes away the sort of tumultuation of our own human condition. So there is something funny about the ending of this, if it does lean into that of like,
but it's the forced conformity. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they should just all do what we say.
Yeah.
You know, it is better on the other side. And in that way, it's like I Am Legend, too. You know, it's like who's the last remaining one. And if we're all on the other side, then there is no other side anymore, you know?
Well, good to know is that I love I Am Legend for its ability to give us an ending.
Yeah, that's true. It does give us an ending.
Which will now be canonical.
All right. Hold on. I'm just going to flash red screens on all of your windows right now.
Well, that's what they're going to have to do for the. That's what Akiva Goldsman's going to have to do for the sequel. When everyone's like, "Wait, didn't Will Smith die? He's not dead."
Don't worry, it's in capable hands. Clearly, it'll be fine.
Yeah. You might just say you might call that a shortcut, or which kind of dovetails in our next story. Number 10 on Slide In Road. So number 10, this one dates back to an October-November 2020 issue of Esquire magazine. Jen, what is this one about?
An unpleasant grandpa defends his unpleasant family from some grown-up children of the corn when their car gets stuck on an overgrown back road in Maine.
So I couldn't find any quotes from King on this. Obviously King certainly has a tough relationship with roads. I think to say it lightly.
Put that on the jacket.
Do you think that factors into this story at all?
Yeah, I think so. This one, I think, and I remember him talking about this, I think, in the Nightmares and Dreamscapes, where he talks about the couple on the road that gets stuck and like ends up trapped in hell. And here it's a family. So I do think that there's an element of that, that nothing good can happen on a road.
Yeah. John,
I like that this is, he doesn't do this for all these, but at the end of this one, he has it thinking of somebody for some of these stories. And this one's thinking of Flannery O'Connor. And I'm not sure if you're all familiar with Flannery O'Connor. I almost wish I'd read that before the story started, because it does read like a Flannery O'Connor story. They are very rural, and there's like this quick sudden. There's like these quick sudden bursts of violence in her stories. I would suggest to anybody who would like to know more, there's a great collection called "A Good Man Is Hard to Find."
Yep.
And if you like this story or the vibe of this story, I would suggest reading that. I found it interesting with this story. One of the notes I had was that there are multiple grandfathers in this collection who get along with one grandchild.
I know.
Not just the grandchildren, but not the children. And I thought that was interesting.
It's another, that's another twinner or a recurring element to this. It does feel like there are a lot of ideas that maybe not recycled, but certainly bounce back and forth with them. That's certainly one of them. This felt like a dream to me.
It felt like my worst nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly
realistic nightmare,
Yeah. Yeah. Jen, what were you going to say?
Do you think he's like looking at his grandkids and deciding which one is his favorite, which one he's going to I don't know, pass his life on to?
It's interesting. I'm just saying it's interesting that he does seem to be getting along with the grandfathers not really seem to get along with the children.
No. And that's
I'm not putting that out there. I'm not putting that out there.
We don't know what they're like.
No. He loves his kids.
That's the thing that's the ugliest to me about the story is just how much the family dislikes each other. You know, and I think that's the hook for me. These two men, these violent men that come out of nowhere, that's like the catalyst, but it's building on this family that really kind of despises each other. And even after this, like, they saved the day, it's still so ugly, like you get the sense that these kids are fucked and that the mom is now looking at her husband as like a weakling that she's going to leave and try to go fuck a lifeguard. And it's just, and I found a lot of that really refreshing because, having a family is not all like sunshine and roses every day, but it's really ugly.
Excuse me? What are we all working towards?
Hey, let me tell you, Justin.
Don't do it.
Take off your rose-covered glasses.
This reminded me of basically a 70s Grindhouse movie in a way.
Yeah.
Not Grindhouse per se, but like a Sam Peckinpah, like Straw Dogs, or even something like Hills Have Eyes a little bit, where I do love the discontent within the family. I think that's a big part of it. And I think that's also adds to the sort of malaise and dread of this all. Because there is no teamwork at hand, right? Caffrey, go for it.
Well, I've been reading a lot of Jack Ketchum novels lately, who I know Stephen King was a big fan of. And this reminded me of his version of that. I mean, obviously, I do think he kept Flannery O'Connor in mind, just given the rural setting. And I too have. I've only read her. Does she have novels or just short stories? Flirting
The
with
only thing I've ever read is the collection. Which I
Same,
believe
yeah,
I
the
have
Good
a
Man.
Copy
It's hard
of.
to
I
find.
should, yeah.
Which
I know
Springsteen has a
Wise
song.
Blood is I think that's where the band got its name.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where
the
she got her name from.
WEYES.
Yeah.
No, I think Springsteen's A Good Man's hard to find. The song is taken from that. But yeah, but I know, I'm sure he was keeping O'Connor in mind, but it reminded me of a Jack Ketchum book because of the ugliness in it, the very intentional ugliness.
Yeah.
A lot of people think Jack Ketchum is exploitational. I don't, because I feel like the ugliness always has a very distinct point and something he's trying to say about humanity. And in this case, yeah, something I think he's trying to say just about the messiness of being in any family. It's weird because I was so back and forth on whether I thought the son was deserving of that or not. Because on one hand, I'm like, oh, the grandfather's kind of right. But on the other hand, why is the son like this? Because he was raised by,
Well, all we have is the car ride. It's kind of
Exactly,
like what has he
yeah.
been dealing with before that car ride?
Yeah, so I had this one ranked pretty low, but I still dug it just because I just found that I tended to rank the big meteor stories a little bit higher in this one, but I still really do enjoy it. I don't know. I'm of mixed opinions sometimes on King's crime capers, as we know. Sometimes I think he starts it as a piece of crime fiction, then just goes into full on supernatural horror, or just starts relying on his strengths that are already there. But in this one, I'm like, oh no, he actually did come up with this kind of nasty little backwoods crime story and really stuck the landing for it. So overall, really enjoyed it.
I think I had number 8 for me. Yeah.
Yeah, me and you had the same ranking. It was 8, and then Jen and Caffrey both had it 10. So,
hey, top 10 King.
I know.
That's
hey,
the
how about
review.
that?
That's true.
10 King.
There is something to be said, and I didn't really think about it, of King's point of view as a grandfather, because I guess that's totally true. And God, I really wish I would have thought about that a little bit more, because it does make me wonder. I don't think this is the case, but it does make me wonder if there is some sort of message being sent about, oh, look, it's the grandfather that has to take things into his hands, literally, and save the day in a way, this generation below him is so incapable of. And and I'm not saying he's saying anything about his own family. I wonder if he's actually saying a statement, about just where we are generations today. I mean, think of it in the metaphorical sense of, he grew up where there weren't things like TaskRabbit, or even the idea of calling someone easily to come fix things. I mean, he grew up in an area where you really did kind of have to take things on your own hands. Like, it's not necessarily living on the fucking farm, but it's distant enough where, you did have to know how to fix a fucking toilet, or go fix, if there's a roof leaking or something like that, you're going to maybe probably have to find a resolution yourself. And I know that's a reach when you compare it to just an old man taking a baseball bat and beating the shit out of 2 goons, but like I do think there's something to be said about it, and just the disparity between the grandfather and his, it's the son-in-law, right? Or is it actually son?
I think
No, it's his son. It's his son.
Yeah. Well, and
Jen.
I mean, I think extending that, if we look at these 3 generations, because he is connecting with these kids.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's kind of this element of like this middle generation is kind of fucked. And so like, are they all a bunch of Finns who's kind of an idiot, who's just kind of doting through life? And then, so maybe it's the youngest generation that we need to concentrate on. And I don't know how intentional any of that is, but I mean, it is a recurring theme,
We're, Rothman, I mean, I guess he would be his more great grandfather age. Were you thinking of Clint Eastwood at all when you're reading this? Just because it felt like a role for him.
There's another story later on where I got Clint in for, but this is just let's just say I respect the elders. Well, yeah, exactly. It's the turbulence expert, which
shaky flight, huh?
Which, hey, is our next story if we want to seg into it. Not to move us along, but number 9, the turbulence expert, not to be confused with Turbulence, starring Ray Liotta.
What about Turbulence 2, starring Craig Sheffer?
Oh, who's Craig Sheffer again?
Craig Sheffer.
In
He's Brad Pitt's brother in A River Runs Through It.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
I think he's a bad guy in
he's in the program. I think he's in the program with James Caan.
Great bully and Some Kind of Wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's like B-list 80s. He's like James Spader when you can't get James Spader.
Of course, he's in Hellraiser Inferno as well.
Oh, that's right. He is in Hellraiser.
Directed by Scott Derrickson, who directed The Black Phone. Okay, we're back.
There we go.
God,
all the way to the top.
By the way, I want to apologize that I just segged right into that story. You said Turbulent. I had to jump into it. it. So if anyone has any other thoughts to say about it, okay, we can move on from Slide on Road. Cool.
Slide on into turbulence.
Slide on into turbulence.
The turbulence expert.
If we were going to spend as much time as we did on Fenn,
I know
a year ago, maybe I could have some more things to say, but I'm good to keep moving on.
All right, good. All right, so lots to say about this one. So this one goes to 2018, Flight or Fright, which is a horror anthology that was edited by King and Bev Vincent and published by Cemetery Dance Publications.
Susan found that for me in a used bookstore, like super randomly. She was like, "Do you want this?" And I didn't know. I just saw King and Bev Vincent's name, who I knew was on the show, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, just get that for me." But I got really excited once I got my copy of You Like It Darker. I'm like, "Wait, I know one of these stories." And they have The Terror at 20,000 feet or 30 in there too. It's a good collection. It's really good.
It's got a lot of new story, but then also a lot of older ones. Yeah, like Roald Dahl, Ray Bradbury's on it too.
Of course, Turbulence, that Ray Liotta film was based on, is also.
It was the slim
novelization,
novella.
right?
It's a little bit like Die Hard, which was originally based on that one novel, but then it turned into something else.
Or Die Hard 2, which is at an airport.
Oh, that's true. That's right. Yeah. Turbulence, but so. Jen, what is the story about?
Sorry.
What are we about?
Yeah.
I know. A nervous flyer makes a living preventing plane crashes by giving in to his fear of turbulence on frequent flights directed by a shadowy organization.
So this is what King said. The introduction to the story of the book. I thought this was funny because I found just a screen grab of it on someone's e-reader, and it says, Stephen King, that's me, has written at least 2 stories about airplane frights. One is called Langoliers and was made into a TV miniseries. The other, The Night Flyer, is about a vampire who flies a private plane instead of turning into a bat. That story was turned into a feature film. This one is brand new. I say this all because this is the weirdest introduction to a short story I've ever read, in that he spends more time talking about the adaptations of his own stories. Why? Like, who cares? Like, it's just so funny. I just thought that the specificity was really great. But obviously, there's a longer note in the book itself. He says, well, we were sitting around at a dinner before a screening of The Dark Tower in Bangor. I'm sure that was a great night. And there were a lot of people who'd flown in for the big night. I mentioned that I hated flying, and the conversation turned to various airplane stories, some scary and some funny. I said there had never been a collection of flight-based horror stories, although I could think of several, including the Matheson and the Conan Doyle, which are in the book about the terrors of flight. I said someone ought to do the book. Rich Chismar said I would, in a heartbeat, of course. And it took more than one heartbeat, but Flight or Fright is now a book. Bev Vincent, that incredible polymath, agreed to team with me as co-editor, and now the book, including several new stories, one by me and one by my son, Joe Hill, is in actual fact. Bev and I think it would make a great, ideal airplane reading, especially in stormy descents. So there we have it. So he hates flying. And I remember that event because we actually had Scott Wampler of Kingcast. Before he started a Stephen King podcast, he was on our podcast, and he talked to us about that event. And I remember him saying that it was kind of like it was a breakneck event where they did fly them in. They saw the movie. And then we joked about
They apologized.
Yeah, and it apologized profusely for that garbage film.
Hey, it does have Fran Kranz in it, so
Yeah.
I still have never seen it.
Dollhouse.
You've never seen it? Oh, wow.
I always think about it and I'm like,
It's not even like so. It's not Hard to Kill by Seagal. It's not even so bad. It's good. I would not say you got to see it.
It's so middling. It's annoying. That's pretty much what it is. But anyway, I just thought just reading that, I was like, oh, that's funny because I remember that event and I remember being like, God, I wish we were going. So this is one that I think is a great idea and an okay execution. Yeah. I think that there's enough here, but this actually reminds me of another plane story that involves 9/11. And I think it's Everything's Eventual, where he talks about there's the woman that has the premonition.
Oh, yeah.
Husband.
It reminded me of that too. That feeling you can only say what it is in French.
Yes. Like it reminded me of that. And whereas that, I felt like that story. Yeah. Deja vu. Denzel Washington. And I believe Tony Scott.
Maybe.
Anyway, it reminded me of that story. But I think that story has a little bit more meat and actually lands the flight. This one, I just felt that there were things missing. Am I wrong here? Or like, is it kind of...
like the ones we've mentioned so far, these stories aren't world beaters, but that's kind of the pass I give some short stories. You know, you invest just as much into it as the author is investing. I'm not saying that King isn't plotting these shorter stories out, but the thing I liked about it, I also have it at number 9, by the way. Mm-hmm. Is I still thought that, like you said, Mike, the idea is definitely original.
Yes.
You can't say this is ripping on or riffing on anything else. And you couple that with a personal trait of mine, which is, you know, my claustrophobia that I'm getting as I get older. When this turbulence is happening on the plane, like I am putting myself in that situation. And I think he does that section of the short pretty well. My heart raced a little bit, admittedly, during that sequence. Now, when you enter into the it's a deal with the devil, it's like, well, okay, I don't know about this. But again, you know, it's kind of like what I said about Finn. It's inoffensive. I don't feel like it's a waste of my time, not to give it the faintest of praise. But it's not the best story by any means.
What do we think about, like, I'm just going to say the Marvelification of it all, but the idea that it's passing on.
Oh, yeah.
It just felt it was a little unnecessary.
Like that. You didn't like that?
I mean, it's cute, but it just felt like it's a short story. I don't know if I need to have some sort of passing on the torch angle to this, but I mean, it works because I think it allows it to someone to be a conduit into knowing what the hell this is all about.
Yeah.
It's your game now.
It's your game now. Yeah, exactly. What is that? Saw 1?
No, it's Halloween 6.
Halloween 6.
Oh, it is Halloween 6. Yes,
the producer's cut.
But it's Jigsaw's game that he's passing on to
Amanda
Hoffman or Amanda.
I think Jigsaw probably does say something.
I'm sure he
similar.
does.
It's
the game is now yours.
The game's yours. Your game now.
It's important.
Oh my god.
You're the turbulence expert.
How do you like this ASMR of like 4 fucking hosts doing the Jigsaw voice?
Hey, 3. Okay.
Yeah, 3.
It's a deal with the devil.
Jen, what are your thoughts on the turbulence?
Amanda of this episode?
Amanda,
Yeah,
yes.
Amanda.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. I do like Amanda.
On the Strom.
Of course she was.
Flattened.
You've
Donnie
even got your
Wahlberg.
backlighting looks like the backlighting in the Saw movies. Right? It's just like this Cinemax 1997.
Well, yours
Hold on,
looks
there's
like
like
the
Sammy
for-
getting up from the floor now
Yeah.
with like dry blood all
Mine
over
looks
her
like the
face.
background from
the first one.
Saw.
Honestly, and yeah,
There's
go
a
for
dead
it.
guy on his face down on the floor next to me right now.
It's Leigh Whannell.
That's what happened to the
Oh God.
I liked the story quite a bit. I think I had it where I probably had it around 7, 8, 9. I can't remember exactly, but mostly just because I liked other things better. I think there's a methodical quality to it that I like. There's a lot of description. There's a little too much puking into a bag. I didn't want to read about that part, but I think I like the passing on quality more so because I was like, maybe I can get one of those jobs. I would fly around, but I think the horror comes from like the fact that you can't ever get used to it. Like this feels like a thinker to me, you know, like it doesn't really horrify in the moment, but the more I keep turning it over, it's like, yes, I do get to spend the night in these fancy hotels. I can fly around. I like to fly, so I would enjoy that. But like, you think you're going to die all the time and like honestly think that you're going to die. And I think that has unsettled me since I've read it. You know?
Well, you said it's like a thinker, and I do agree. Like down the line, I want to say right now, because these stories are still fresh to all of us, but like down the line, will I think it's better than Turbulence 2 Fear of Flying from 1999? I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
don't wanna
only
say
time
one way
will
or the other.
tell, you know?
I agree.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I will. I don't know.
Catherine, you had this ranked the highest.
Yeah, I had it ranked at number 7. It gave me. It felt like Minor Everything's Eventual a little bit. Just this idea of
I was
working
wondering if
for
it's the same organization. Yeah.
Yeah, for like a shadow organization. I'm always a fan of seeing everyday people go into that world. And once again, look, once we get like 9 and above for me in this collection, I think they're all pretty great.
Yeah.
And yeah, this really stuck with me because not that I'm a turbulence expert, but I do the same thing every time I'm on a plane. I always think of the plane crashing and how horrible that would be. And I always think, okay, now that I've thought that, that's not going to happen.
Yes.
Because the things that we are worried about never happen, and the things we're not worried about always happen. I don't know if there's truth to that. I mean, I'm as likely to get in a plane crash as anyone else. But he has that one image of like the plane nosediving and a baby just falling all the way through down to the nose, and that stuck with me. So,
a lot of baby
weirdly
stuff
related.
in this. It's
What'd you say?
it's a lot of like baby death. Like it makes me wonder.
He goes.
All right, how do we go there? Let's just
Baby
throw a
slash
baby.
toddler,
Let's get fuck them kids energy in this whole collection. But so I really enjoyed it and just related to it on just a pure fear level, because it's something I really love flying and I'm not afraid of flying, but I always have that. I almost like run through your horrible Fight Club plane crash scenario so you can enjoy the rest of your flight and watch The Dark Tower on my next
Good.
flight.
Dan, it would probably be an ideal plane movie.
Because it's like 90 minutes, right?
And then you just sit
down,
there and foam at the mouth at it.
And worst case scenario, you don't finish, but at least your plane crashes, so you don't have to finish it.
That's true.
That's right.
The turbulence thing is interesting to me. Sammy hates flying, and whenever there's any turbulence, she just gets really sick from it. But I don't know if it's just the sicko in me, but like I just get really peaceful when it gets fucking nuts on a plane. I just sit there and I'm like, all right.
You're like Wayne in Wayne's World when the flames build up in the streets.
I just think there's there's nothing we can do. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to freak out. It's just it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And, but then, and I've thought about this because on a recent flight, there was some bad turbulence. And sometimes you just get landings where you're just like, fuck, that like hurts. Like it hurt to land because it just hit so hard. Mm. And even through all of that, the only thing I can think of was the fact that this kid with his grubby hands touched my fucking armrest at the beginning of the flight, and I didn't have any Purell to clean off the thing, so I wouldn't touch the armrest like the entire time. So even though the plane could have possibly, there was tons of turbulence, tough landing, my sicko mind was still thinking of, well, the handrest is gross. It's just got shit all over it. And so.
But weirdly, that's because that's the thing you can kind of control. Like if you had Purell with it, you could have done something about it. Whereas the plane crash, you can't.
Did you have a pencil with you?
No.
You could have done what Schwarzenegger does in K-Cop.
Oh, yeah.
Snap it into
you. See this pencil? If you don't shut up, this is what I'm going to do to you.
Do this to your neck.
It's funny you say that about landings because I feel like I'm actually more afraid during landings because I think most crashes happen during the takeoff or landing. Yeah. And yes, sometimes the landing will be so hard and you're still going so fast on the runway. I always think about the plane like skidding off the runway into the woods. That's actually more my fear, I think, more so than turbulence.
I worry about crashing and then having to become a cannibal in the woods somewhere or on a mountain.
Sounds like that awful when they did the Twilight Zone, the Jordan Peele one, and they redid the Nightmare at 20,000 feet or whatever. And it's like, and they crash land, and then they all like blame him. They go eat him, I think, or something.
Wait, they redid that. They redid that story
because he used his phone, I think it was, or some twist.
Yeah.
God,
that was awful. Just absolutely awful.
It wasn't as awful as me thinking, hey, let's make a fucking podcast and dedicate every.
Of course, it was Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. Of course, we all felt the same way. We were all excited,
and it had Adam Scott in it. So
unfortunately, he was in that lame reboot of that, like the worst of the three. But anyway, turbulence, the expert.
Well, where does this? Where in terms of he saved this or he wrote this for Flight or Fright. I think he has scarier plane stories, even beyond the ones that he mentioned. Like even the one with the hell, which I think is also on Everything's Eventual, where she just keeps repeating, they land in the Keys, and she has I can't remember the name of it, but she keeps it repeats over and over again.
That's the feeling you can only say in French, I think.
But then there's another one where the one I was talking about earlier was the one that ties to 9/11, where she has the premonition of her husband that's on the plane or something like that. I can't remember what that is.
The New York Times at special discount rates.
Yes, that's all right. So the deja vu one is I think is his best plane story.
I think so too. I don't know. I really like the Night Flyer.
Or the Langoliers.
I do like the Night Flyer.
I like Night Flyer. Night
Flyer's got some good stuff.
The Langoliers is not his. It's probably.
No, I'm not a Langoliers fan, but I think the Night Flyer is excellent. I think about that all the time.
Chompy.
Well,
that's what I think.
I know that you think about this story all the time because number 8 is your nomenclature for this episode. Willie the Weirdo, Caffrey. So this one dates back to the spring 2022 issue of McSweeney's, number 66, which oddly enough, I ordered for all of us to cover back then, and it just sat on my desk.
Oh.
Like piles of them. I ordered like 4 of them when they first were announced. I was like, oh, we got to get this. We got to review it. And we just never did. And to collect all these desks, and I don't even know where I think I gave them out to like as gifts or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, here we are. We're finally able to talk about it. Jen, what is Willie the Weirdo about?
I'm just imagining us trying to do an hour on this story, like we did an hour on Finn.
Don't challenge us. We'll do it.
All right, this one is a gender-flipped grandma. Weird Willie gets along with his creepy old grandpa who stinks and has an eerie memory of tragic events from well before he was born.
Okay, so Willie the Weirdo, this is what he said. He goes, I have a news story in McSweeney's number 66. It's so weird, it's called Willie the Weirdo. The best way to read it is by subscribing. Use the code Willie at checkout for a special 20% discount.
Will all of this still work?
There's only one way to find out.
Maybe.
Listeners,
try it.
Let us know.
He goes, McSweeney's the best. Now, I know I'm reading these tweets in jest, but it does seem like King found a way in the last 5 years, at least since the last short story collection, to find some sort of maybe not monetary use, but popular use. Because we talked about this with Everything's Eventual, and we bled that discussion into Just After Sunset and how he waxed nostalgic about the death of the short story and how its use is, it's waned over the years. Look at all these short stories that we have in this collection. They're all used for good, like we mentioned the ACLU earlier. I mean, I don't know if promoting just a digital thing like Scribd is like a good cause or anything, but it is like, hey, it's getting people reading and it's digital. There's going to be another one down the road, but McSweeney's, it's an institution, and he's using the short story model as a way to like, hey, let's prop up this institution. I think it's a cool idea. Anyway, that was my tangent on that. But Jen.
Well, and it's an interesting variation of his original short stories when Tabitha would be like, King, write a monster, we have to get ear medicine. It's like now he's writing stories to help other people, which is, a nice bookend.
Good. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good cut. Any other thoughts on King using short stories as a way to save the world?
I mean, there are a lot worse ways to save the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
As we keep getting weird stories. Yeah.
So you mentioned Grandma. This one's too similar to Grandma, right? Like it's a little. I texted you immediately, Jen, about this. I was like, I know you love Grandma, but this feels I don't know. It felt very similar to me.
I had this at like number 4. Like
I know you have it high, yeah.
But for me, it didn't necessarily give me Grandma vibes, because Grandma for me is, I don't know. It's been a minute since I've read Grandma, but I feel like you're not as. From the beginning, everything is fucked and evil in Grandma. Like, there's not that the friendly relationship between the grandmother and the boy is like so tainted. Whereas with this, I was kind of moved by it throughout.
Yes.
Like, and I wasn't quite sure. I'm like, is this supernatural or is the grandfather just, crazy? And even with the way it ends, obviously it's a very dark ending, but also given how much of a weirdo Willie is, I could see him just being into this, like being the possessor of the vehicle for this demon or whatever it is at this point. So,
that's the thing. I
don't
think
it's
supernatural.
You don't think think it is? Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
No,
so you think it's just like kind of they both have a similar just off.
I think they're both just It's fine. Is this like the second or third story in the collection? I feel like this is early on.
It's early on.
It is. Yeah.
I remember thinking this kind of really earns the title.
Yeah.
If you like it darker. I mean, the get a mouthful line is so disgusting. I thought this was like oddly sentimental and nasty. It was a really strange combination.
There's like a weird warmth to it that I guess Grandma doesn't have. And I love Grandma, but I feel like Grandma, you're just sort of waiting for it the whole time.
The only problem I have with this is just I think that there are 9 stories stronger. Honestly, I never really made the Grandma connection in that regard, I guess.
I think for me it was just the idea that there is this older figure in your house that has somehow taken control of you. Like the idea that there's that cruel ending, that this thing that seemingly was immobile and not a threat actually was a threat and gets you in the end. It reminds me of I don't even know if it's the 2005 movie The Skeleton Key. It's been long enough. It's almost 20 years at this point. It reminded me very similar to that ending, which has haunted me forever. And so I love the punch of this ending. I don't say that the grandma thing is a negative mark on it. It just felt like, for me, it did feel sort of like a twinner in the sense that you got another elderly person that could, if we believe that this is supernatural,
right?
There's another elderly character that's like, I got you.
I just thought, I really I did not read this as supernatural, this particular one. I just thought it's Willie the Weirdo.
Well, I like it, the idea,
weird.
I do like it is the idea that this kid is like taking on qualities of his just to be a little shit about it.
This kid's like Patrick Hockstetter meets apt pupil, you know? Like
I like weirdly liked him though. I don't know. There was something like
I felt
Patrick
bad
Hockstetter.
for him.
Yeah, I felt bad for him. I want to reread it now through the lens of it possibly not being supernatural because I just took it at face value. But you're right. I mean, there's nothing to confirm necessarily if it is or isn't. I mean, I do feel like with King, it usually is supernatural, you know. But there's no like you don't see a swarm of flies come out of his mouth or anything like that, you know. It
isn't like Grandma where it's unquestionably supernatural.
Yeah, we do get confirmation.
Oh, that is definitely Is that that's still like the only witch story he has, right?
It sure is.
I guess the framing device in Tales from the Dark Side.
I'm sure he was really.
Well, we have Ray of the Coos, but like
Ray
I
of the
would
Coos counts.
kill for
Yeah,
a
that's
witch
true.
Story.
I know.
Don't you just love a happy ending?
Oh yeah. Well, and Grandma is my favorite King story of all of them. Like I fucking love it.
Well, that's why I
partly
texted you
because it is a
immediately.
witch. Exactly. So like to be compared to my favorite short story, like I did really enjoy this one. And I think it's interesting to kind of see it through a boy's lens too, because Willie is so kind of gross and like off-putting and I did feel some sympathy for him too, like just worrying about what people are saying about my own kids, are they weird, but it's interesting. We've got the element of like two elderly people like falling apart in a house. And, is this something that is drawing someone or is it repelling the younger generation? And then I also think it's interesting to look at it through like this gender dynamics too, because like Grandma has to hide her evil or she's not going to be able to take over the body. But, Grandpa here is just like, hey, Willie, come let me tell you about some fucked up shit. And Willie's all into it, and I don't know if there's like a really like strong message there, but I just think it's interesting. It's a really interesting kind of flip to that grandma dynamic,
Justin.
Well, this is another side note, though. I did have a note about this. This is just one example of many. I mean, this story also brings up COVID.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I find it. I think here's my final. I'm sure we'll be talking about.
Well, we got it for the rest of our lives. We got a big story about COVID coming up.
Here's the thing. Here's my problem is. I'm reading a book right now. It's Teddy Wayne's new book, and it's called The Winner. And COVID permeates this book, but it makes sense to the story because it literally takes place in the summer of 2020, and this kid is going to work for this rich neighborhood where it's kind of closed off so people are not getting COVID, but he's concerned about people outside getting COVID. Plays a great part. I don't understand why he has to keep bringing up COVID in these stories that have absolutely nothing to do with COVID. It's very interesting to me. I'm saying it's interesting to me.
It's very strange, and I wonder if it's just at the time when he wrote some of these, because Willie the Weirdo was around the time of. Yeah. I mean, you're right.
Some of these are older. Some of these are older. Yeah.
But even so, he talks about it because in the afterward he says, it was she, Tabitha, who suggested that I had more work to do about COVID and rattlesnakes, which I think we could talk about COVID and rattlesnakes later on. But it is interesting that he did have someone that was like, all right, we need more.
And it's weird.
More COVID.
Yeah. Especially after Holly, where I'm like, all right, enough.
I was going to say, I am not always the biggest COVID King fan just because it has popped up a lot in his work the past few years. I definitely wasn't a fan of it in Holly, but I liked it a lot in Willie the Weirdo, and it reminded me of how I used it in Gwendy's Final Task. I think I like it when he has this more telescopic view of it, and it's like talked about in terms of history as an overarching force. I think because the grandfather is going through and Willie are going through these almost like plague-like events in the biblical sense, it didn't bother me. Like I liked how he folded into how they both see the world rather than just, I'm going to drop it in here and make a weird joke about masks or something like that. Like it felt very intentional for me in here, which is why it didn't bother me. Actually, that was kind of a strength of the story.
Well, speaking of COVID, I'm getting a cough and it feels like it's a bad dream. Number 7.
Oh, man.
Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream. This is our first original story that we've reached so far. This is the halfway point, I guess, at this point,
I should have named myself I'm Dan.
I know. I'm
can't
surprised you
believe
did.
Danny
I
Coughlin.
know. But I know why you didn't do it.
I'm not gonna lie, Dan. You really fucked up.
Well, let's hold that because there's a certain thing that made me laugh. Maybe not so much cough, but laugh about our rankings here. But first, Jen, tell us what Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream is about.
The titular janitor has a vivid dream where he discovers a body. He reports said body, then becomes the obsession of an unstable detective with arithmomania.
Arithmomania. Dun, 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 dun,
Little
dun.
Phoenix.
Yeah, remember that band? So here's what King said in the afterword. I rarely know the details. The elderly cop and rattlesnakes, Andy Pella came out of nowhere, or how the stories are supposed to finish up. Part of the joy for me, at least, is in discovery. Why this process works or how it works is a complete mystery to me. Danny Coughlin's Bad Dream was like that. One day, while getting dressed with nothing on my mind but a bowl of cereal, God, he loves cereal, and taking my dog for a walk, I thought, what would happen if a man had a single psychic flash, a dream that showed him where a body was buried? Would anyone believe him, or would they think he was the killer? That was while I was putting on my shirt. By the time I was pulling on my jeans, I was thinking about an obsessive cop, sort of like Inspector Javert in Les Miserables, hounding my protagonist. The rest of the story fell into the place. I didn't know my cop, Jalbert, instead of Javert, I'm getting this all wrong, would have a counting obsession. He started doing it pretty much on his own. I simply followed that particular thread. Justin.
Let me tell you something. I was so fucking proud of myself
For knowing
when I
that?
read Jalbert. I was like, oh, this kind
That's
of. I wonder if
Javert.
this is like Javert from Les Miserables.
too.
And
You love Les
I'm
Miserables.
taking notes. I love Les.
I do.
I'm
I
taking
love it,
notes.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can't wait to talk all about this. I really found something here. And then the afterward, King literally just says, I thought
like,
about
Javert.
Javert from Les Mis. I went, God,
Justin,
I've got
damn it.
nothing.
I had the
I've
exact
got
same
nothing.
thought. Look, like I'm a theater kid, obviously
Yeah,
know and
I
love
know.
Les Miserables. And know what's funny? As I was reading it, before I even clocked what the guy's name was, just personality-wise, I'm like, oh, he reminds me of Javert. And then I was like, oh, and his name is Jalbert.
Yes.
And then, then
So
I saw
clever.
that,
We're
God
so
damn,
smart.
He's a real
we're not
Javert.
very smart, yeah.
So I said it's
when
funny.
Start singing 24601. That's when I
I was going to say, before you say another word, Jalbert.
I'll say this.
I will sing the whole thing. Don't tempt me.
Sammy loves her musicals. She
Yeah.
put that on like a few weeks ago. I went in the other room.
You like it? Oh,
It's
I
so
love it.
good.
Listen, you're out.
Oh.
Matrix Revolutions.
No, I-
Les Miserables. What was the other one that you dissed Jen over?
What was I forgot what was the other one?
Turbulence 2
man.
if you're
Turbulence
flying.
2. It was Turbulence 2, Night Flyer. The reason why I was laughing earlier and not so much coughing was when I got the rankings to put all together, you get, for me, I put this at number 7. Justin put this at number 6. Jen put this at number 5. And then here's why Caffrey didn't have it as his nickname. He had it dead last, which felt
Wow.
like
Why do you
such
hate
a
Les Mis,
statement.
Caffrey?
That
I
felt
can't
like
wait.
such a statement. And so I have to leave the floor to you right now because this is what did you not? What got under
It's
your skin about this
Just the length, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
it's a
think it
long-
need to be that long. I don't. Once again, no duds in this collection, in my opinion. But I had to pick something, and I just kind of kept waiting to see if there was going to be something else to it. I know he loves his crime fiction.
I know.
I'm always ragging on him for it, but I just don't think the details are his strong suit. And I think sometimes he paints these quote unquote mysteries or these dots that we're supposed to connect in a way that, at least to me, is just not as compelling or mysterious. And so when it balloons to that length, like I like the overall themes and the characters and everything, I'm just like, we don't need it to be this long. That was really all it was for me. And I kept waiting for some bigger kind of payoff, and
Same.
I just didn't get it. So I didn't hate it by any means, but yeah, it was by far and also of all the big meaty novella length tales here, the only one that wasn't like perfect to me. So I think that's
I
why.
agree with that part. Yeah.
Justin.
I think what I really relate to is as the staunch anti-supernatural person of the group, I was really relating, and I was like really putting myself in Jalbert's shoes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
Just
what I
a
would do
Jalbert.
if this was the only reasoning was that he had a dream. There's no way that my brain would ever be able to accept that. And what would I do to like want to put this person away? Like, what would I do that? Would I behave that way? I mean, I really was thinking like, what would it take for me to believe this person? And I just, it would ruin my life. It would like overwhelm. It would be like Jack Nicholson in the Pledge. I mean, I'd be stumbling at a gas station. You know, I don't know.
You'd be season 5 McNulty. You just start planting shit everywhere. You know,
I have to tie a ribbon over Danny's finger or something like that. I mean, I don't know what I have to do to. But I know that really did that. I was able to relate to it in that regard, where I was kind of just with him as he was spinning out of control. Like you said, Caffrey, though, as I've said as well. Crime is not his strong suit, but it's the premise for me that I was kind of involved in because with a story like this, you think that the setup is going to continue throughout, but until the very end, it really is just that one moment of the fantastic that happened to this person and the repercussions of it.
And that does dovetail nicely to what we've been saying about, how do you interpret these forces bigger than yourself, right? Like, how much should you interpret a dream and rely on that? At least I love all that, man. I don't have anything. Any problems with the overall conceit of it. It's really just length and the minutia of it. Like I actually love Billy Summers, but for me, Billy Summers isn't so interesting because of all the little crime details. It's more interesting because we're spending time with this character who I really love and getting to know him better. And I think that's King's strong suit.
Jen, go for it, because I want you to be able to chime in.
Yeah, I think I had this the highest. I really loved this one. And a lot of it is because of the counting. Like that's part of the reason I loved N. And that's one of my favorite parts of Doomakey. I just like the methodical quality of it. And I was like, oh, Jalbert's the hero. Look at all this counting. And then he turned evil. And I was like, maybe I need to examine
I like how you thought
counting.
He was going to be a good guy when the first thing that Danny says is, I got a good look at this guy. I knew there was something wrong with him.
I was like, no, that sounds like a bait and switch. Red herring to me.
To be fair, the reason why Jen isn't so hot in the dead zone is because, Stilson gets it in the end, and you were really rooting for him. So
I was.
Jen loves killing dogs. I mean, to be honest.
The opening graph, Jen, he's like... You're a cat person, so you're like probably like fucking Stilson. He
fuck those dogs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I heard you love Christy Neem or Name, whatever the fuck her name is.
Oh, Christy Gnome.
Gnome, sorry.
Wow.
Neem, what is it?
Oh,
Neem?
wow.
Gnome.
Yes, I officially do not like her, but for many reasons. But I also, this has that powerlessness feeling that I think I really connect to. It's why the series that we don't really talk about anymore, the fifth, is my favorite, because there's just a hopelessness that I connect to a lot. And then like this fear of like when somebody who has power over you is like slowly losing his grip on reality, like what do you do? Like he's holding all the levers of power and he's losing his mind, but you're the enemy because he's decided you're the enemy, and that feels terrifying to me.
Yeah. Justin. You know what it reminds me of? He reminds me of Javert from Les Miserables.
He does, yes. Like, I'm stealing bread. You can't steal bread. Yeah. It's against the law.
Is that Russell Crowe?
It is Russell Crowe, yes.
Russell Crowe.
Not the strong point of that movie.
Or it's Jeffrey Rush. In this house.
Yeah, so which one is Liam Neeson's in one of those Les Miserables? That's the one.
He's in the non-musical adaptation. Okay. So he's just in the book adaptation.
Get that musical out of there. That's the one with Uma Thurman too.
Uma Thurman,
yeah, it's a good one. That's the one I like.
One of the best musicals.
I know. I'm just
Yeah.
I mean, it's like engineered to make you cry, but I love it.
I'll tell you right now, Mike. I'm looking at you, and I wish that there was an empty chair at that table. I mean, get him out of here.
Yeah, hey, look. What can I say? Maybe I like my hard case crime. Well, actually, there's a reason why I said
you should head to a
crime.
castle in the cloud. I mean, that's all.
I mean, speaking of musicals, he mentions "No Good Deed Goes Unpunished," which is from Wicked, which is also a musical.
Oh, coming soon to a theater near you.
I know, and I can't.
Talented,
the wickedly talented. Yes.
There's certainly a point somewhere in You Like It Dark where someone has a candy bar. I love Willy Wonka. That's a good musical. So
making chocolate, of course.
You mean Wonka?
Yeah,
darker chocolate, right?
Make it darker, of course.
You mentioned
make it darker, of course.
You know that
we really are.
We've gone off the rails.
Turning into Jalbert.
We are.
Yes, we are.
Look, we're halfway through. We got to get through this. King did choose to read this one in his live preview. He's been doing that for most of the releases. He started doing that, I feel, maybe around the Institute, or maybe he did it during COVID. I can't remember, but it's a tradition of his. I was admittedly surprised this is the story he chose to read for that, but now I think it makes sense in the sense that it is the true crime story of this novel, or this collection, and I just, maybe he's still in that mode, or he just still loves that. And I wonder, like, did he have the most fun writing this one because of the true crime? And when you think about it, this is, I didn't look and see if Rattlesnakes is longer. I think Rattlesnakes might be longer, but
I think this is the longest.
This is the longest? Okay.
I think this is over 100 pages, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's like over. It's like 150, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rattlesnakes is only maybe 80, 90 pages.
Okay, so then this is the longest. So this does make me wonder if he's still, we have all these. We have some creatures. We have some ghosts. We even have some aliens. But maybe his heart is still in the crime, and that's why this is the longest, and that's maybe why it does feel a little bit more connected to what came before this. I don't know. I thought, I don't know if this is a hot take, I think this would work better as a hard case crime novel.
I think you're right.
Definitely.
I agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, it feels like later. It feels like the weight and the size of that story, and it feels like an episode of SVU, just a little bit longer too.
Can I also say one more thing?
Yeah, no, please go.
Is it about Les Mis?
There's a moment at the end where I thought that this cop was going to fall in love with this retired guy, this old retired guy in typical King fashion. But then King added the line, she pulls back from him after he touches her hair. And I thought that had to be a deliberate choice for him to say, no, this is not some weird, they're going to fall in love.
Mr. Mercedes thing again.
They're not doing, Yeah.
Yeah, I cast this one in my head where the cop, maybe it's just because of the Maxine trailers in my head, but I saw like Michelle Monaghan as the cop. But then for
Bacon as Shelby.
No, unfortunately not Bacon. I was seeing the brother-in-law from Bloodline who is dating it's such a random poll, but the one that's dating God damn it, what's her name from Freaks and Geeks? I can't remember her name now.
Oh, Linda Cardellini?
Linda Cardellini. Yeah, he has the same energy, I feel like, of just very uber masculine and very like steadfast and like almost kind of like Dokes in Dexter also.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Have we told the Doke story on this podcast?
What's the Doke story?
Were you with me when we were in Wicker Park and somebody looked across the street and went, oh my God, it's Dokes from Dexter. And it was this really, really short black man, and I went, no way. And so I said, I'll go find out. So I crossed traffic in Wicker Park. And I followed this guy down to a store that had like a second story in the basement. So I went down all the way down there.
Which is like Zodiac over here.
It really was. And then I put my Knight's helmet on. No. And then I went to the basement. If you know, you know. So I went to the basement, walked by him. It was absolutely Dokes from Dexter.
Wow.
And I went right back up the stairs. I went across the street and I went, it's Dokes.
Surprise, motherfucker.
Surprise.
And on that note, number 6.
Lori. Hey, Lori. How about that? But not Lori from Halloween. No. This is another 2018 story, May 17th, 2018. King self-published this on his website. We actually covered this on a Needful Tweets episode at the time. And you could probably I don't even know what episode it is. I can't imagine. It's probably sometime in May 2018, but they're not dated anymore because they all have weird titles. So good luck. But there was an audio recording that was included on the audiobook version of Elevation, which was released later that year. Now, all of this makes me feel incredibly fucking old now because that is 6 years ago already. Jeez. Which is pretty wild. That's in the past tense here. That's how far we've been doing this. So anyway, Jen, what is Lori about?
A lonely widower named Lloyd adopts an adorable puppy named Laurie and then squares off against the man-eating alligator from my nightmares.
So nothing from him. His site just says, Stephen has written a new short story, Lori, which is available now as a free download exclusively on StephenKing.com. You may download and or print the story for yourself or to pass along to others, but may not charge any money to share it. Now, that made me laugh just because it's like, I'm imagining people just like printing this out and be like, here we go. It's a King's new story. 10 cents up the dollar.
Extra.
Just who's going to fucking take this? And anyway, this is kind of a rewrite what we know, right? It's another story with dogs, another story with walking, another story in Florida. There's another story with widows. You could argue that these predate a lot of these because he wrote this a long time ago.
Right.
Caffrey, you had this at number 2, and I have to imagine it's because it's the creature, right? The gator itself.
It's a King gator story.
Yeah.
I mean, what else? I love it when King goes into monster mode. I mean, granted, he treats it fairly realistically here. I also just felt like it was very thematically sound in a way that was surprising because I feel like when you see that alligator on the cover, you think it's going to be some big epic guy stranded on an island squaring off against this gator for days or something like that. I really appreciate that this is a very intimate internal moment for him where it's really just this one walk and a very quick encounter with the gator that kind of encapsulates him having to move past the grief. I mean, I know we always make fun of sometimes like, oh, this story's about processing grief or this or that. But this one really is. And once again, it comes down to intentionality. I also think King just writes dogs in a way like no one does, except maybe Cormac McCarthy. I feel like they both just write animals so well. And I don't know, it's interesting because even the gator in this is just protecting its young, right? Mm-hmm. Like I feel like he doesn't go out of his way to make the gator especially monstrous or evil. It's just an animal trying to survive, very much like this man is. I loved it. I loved how slice of life it was, even though it seems like it's gonna be this overwhelming thing based on the cover. I always use this term, but it felt very lived in to me. But you guys all ranked this like I'm actually surprised. This is
I had this
ranked higher.
I said this at number 7. I thought it was good.
You had the 7. You had Jen had it 7. I had it 6.
Yeah.
So pretty on the middle there.
You talked about the themes. I think. Well, first of all, I think this actually takes place in the same area as rattlesnakes.
It does. He mentions Lloyd and rattlesnakes.
Okay, cool. I thought so. This, to me, though, ties more into The Answer Man. Because it's a great line after the encounter with the alligator where somebody says she's lucky to be alive, talking about Lori. And I thought that really hit home in that moment of the story. It's another example of like, well, could be worse. And you shouldn't diminish when things could be worse, but you should also be grateful to be alive. And I thought that really, after that incredible, that encounter with the alligator is just
great.
It's shocking how violent the gator is, and almost like a Jaws, as in the movie way, where it is unrealistic. I think that the alligator would be acting like that, even if it is protecting its young.
But
man, it works for me in a Stephen King story. I don't know.
God, that's so fitting that I saw that video today. So I saw a video that was on, you know how reels work and algorithms, that you watch one thing and all of a sudden you get like fucking 30 different videos of the same thing.
Oh yeah.
So Sammy's just deeply fascinated with alligators, and so she'll send me these videos all the time. So I saw one, and then I saw another one today, and it was really genuinely frightening. And it was just this older man that's walking on the side, and you could see the alligator that's in the water, and neighbors are looking at it and they're like pointing at it too. And all of a sudden it just darts out, and the old man just turns around and starts running, and then everyone else starts running, and then the reel ends. So I was like, what happened? Like, did it go?
Dead.
But he was like it was going after him. And so it's not out of the realm of possibility here for that. But
it's viral marketing for the collection.
It was actually, yeah. At the bottom it said Simon and Schuster out
Simon and Schuster
May 21st.
I hope that man's family was paid well.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. He's like, I'm going out anyways. Might as well give King a boost.
I hate alligators.
I hate them.
I will say I was also, even though we were well into the collection at this point, because I read it in chronological order. And
smart.
I'm thinking about the title. I'm thinking about the cover with the alligator on it. And I was like, after everything that this character has been through, is King going to have this alligator eat this dog?
I know. I really thought.
Oh my God. Thank God. And wherever you are, Mr. King.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
This dog
Uncle
lives,
Stevie.
yeah.
It's like,
man,
Jen.
I am terrified of alligators too, and I've probably talked to y'all about it. Like, I was afraid to go to Florida just to enter the state because when that alligator ate the kid at Disney World, like he was the same age as my son, looked just like my son. So like, I'm afraid that like an alligator is going to somehow get me even in Tennessee. So it's like, this was like my nightmare. And the way it comes out of nowhere too, in this really sweet story where I'm like, oh, like, and no joke, my cat came and sat in my lap while I was reading the first part of it. And I was like, oh no, she's a sweetie. But like, I don't know. I think she like could sense I was reading about someone connecting with an animal, and then this animal like destroys it. And I think this is like really the epitome of what the You Like It Darker kind of theme to me is, because it's so freaky when he talks about like, it's been there for like 65 days. You probably saw it and just didn't realize it. And that's what like this horror in reality is. It's like, at any moment, any of this shit can happen, and like out of the blue come and like eat our brains. And it's just luck. God. It's like dumb luck that it doesn't,
Yeah. I wanted to ask, was there enough gator to sustain the cover though?
I mean, I think I had enough gator for me, but I don't know.
I do love me some alligator. Eating
He's
that
like
Cajun
snacking
tail.
on that.
I love that gator.
What
I love having me some of that gator.
I mean, like I said, I once again, I like the small scale of this just because I think it makes it stand out as far as
Scales, eh?
Oh, well pun there. I think it makes it stand out. Just because I think King is good at writing a gator, I wouldn't have minded if there was maybe a little bit more swimming, maybe a little bit of a chase scene.
Yeah,
like Jurassic Park or the T-Rex.
The gingerbread gator.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
The gingerbread gator.
That actually.
This is like King's most Florida book, I think, since
easily.
Absolutely.
Good Lord.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because the way he talks about certain things, like, there's references to Boca Raton and some other cities that I've just never really seen anyone talk about. And, all of us, with the exception of Jen, who's terrified of gators, would never live in the state. And that's the only reason why she wouldn't live in Florida. Not the politics or
absolutely.
anything.
Everything else about Florida is perfect.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to be.
You feel the same way about Florida as you do about Chick-fil-A.
Absolutely.
You love the politics, not the food. I mean, we've always said that about you.
So the food's tertiary to that. It is just so cool to see some of the local flavor. And what's wild is it makes, so my aunt, she works at a library and she's retired. And so she loves just working with books and all. And she said, she always sends me books of Stephen King. So like I always get multiple copies, and then some of them I give away, which we do on the Instagram. And she always says that she sees him in Boca. And I'm like, no, you don't. He's not in Boca. He's in Clearwater. I'm sure it looks like Stephen King. And she's like, no, I see him. He's always walking around Boca. And so the references that he has in the story itself, it does make me wonder if he has just been kind of putzing around Florida a lot, as opposed to just staying in, the Clearwater area or whatever it is. But
both those Dean Koontz on.
I know.
I went up to him. I said, I love it.
Yeah, it's
actually I wrote Phantoms.
Alabama.
It's I wrote Phantoms. He's wearing a crew hat. So anyway, I do love the Florida flavor in this, and this is certainly one of them because the evening walks, it's just something that my dad, when he had the house and wasn't living in an apartment, it was every day 5:30, 6 o'clock. He's going to go on for a 45-minute walk. It's like a big part of the remedial activity, and I imagine Newport Richie the same way.
Definitely. Well, it's also so fucking hot the rest of the time that it's like the only time you can walk and it doesn't feel awful. Look at it. They say 4 o'clock cocktail, 6 o'clock walk. Am I right? That's the Florida way.
7 o'clock drug deal.
7 o'clock meth deal.
When the sun sets.
And 8 o'clock is the fifth step towards bed, which, by the way, number 5, the fifth step. Or did you have some more closing thoughts on Lori?
I find it curious in a good way. I think that there is a reason that these stories are presented in the order that they're presented. Don't you think? Because our average top 6, we have not mentioned the first 2 stories in this collection, and then the last 4 stories round up the top 6. I find that, that's done that way for a reason, I think.
It's a long game, yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say about Coughlin, I think Bobby Coughlin really benefits from being earlier in the collection too, because if I were comparing it to the other longer one, I'd be like, why are we still doing this? You know, but I was really into it.
Mm-hmm. Well, number 5, fittingly enough, the fifth step. This one's another quote unquote oldie. It was published in March 2020 issue of Harper's Magazine. Ever heard of it? March 2020, great month. It was later collected in the best mystery stories of the year 2021.
This one.
No COVID. Thank God it wasn't. It didn't exist yet. It was only, it was only just traveling. Anyway, so it was collected in the best mystery stories of the year in 2021, which was edited by Lee Child, and as you know from Needful Tweets, big fan of Lee Child. So Jen, what is the fifth step about?
A retired widower named Jameson is just trying to read the paper when a stranger approaches him offering money in exchange for listening to his darkest secrets.
And King says, I've got a great story. Or no, he didn't even say that. He says, I've got a story called The Fifth Step in the current Harper's. Hope you'll read it. And when you do, you'll be supporting a great magazine. See? He's
saving journalism.
Yeah, he's saving journalism.
Is there a code?
There's no code, though. It's like hashtag Harper.
Like 555 step.
Hashtag Jameson.
Jameson. This one for me screamed The Man Who Loved Flowers.
Oh my, 100%.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was thinking of Strawberry Spring, the same collection. But Men Who Love Flowers is more like the setup and the payoff feels similar to that. I was just thinking of Spring Hill Jack. I'm like, oh, is this like a grown up Spring-Filled Jack. But Manhill of Flower is a great comp.
There's some musicality towards the ending of this.
Yeah,
that hit it. Go for
As
it.
it went along, I was making notes about how, man, I really like to see King tackle not just like a novella or short story, but like a novel that is a drama with no mystery or murder. Like I was really enjoying it. Having said that, like you said, not since The Man Who Loved Flowers was I that shocked by an ending. And like I had to kind of like reread the paragraph.
Me too.
It really works. And maybe it'll put people off like it's a cheap trick or something, but I don't know. It worked for me.
That's great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Jen, you had this the highest out of all of us. Was it the twist that got you? Or
I loved this. No, honestly, the twist is what solidified it. Like, but I am afraid to work the steps. And so I was reading this and I was like, yeah, the fifth step is really fucking scary, And I mean, I've talked about being sober for a while and I have not actually worked the steps. I'm not currently in AA, so I don't want to speak out of turn or talk about anything I'm not an expert on, but the thought of writing down everything you've ever done in your life that's hurt somebody else and then telling it to another person is fucking terrifying. And so I was on board with this story already. And then that twist comes and I was like, fuck. And also I've never heard of telling it to a stranger either. So part of me was like, this is weird. My hackles went up at the beginning of it. I was like, I think you're supposed to tell somebody because that's kind of the point. I might be wrong about that. I don't know. And it just says, tell God, yourself, and another person. So that could be a person or a person you don't. But so I was on board. And it also reminds me of the part I love in Dr. Sleep. In the end, it's you're only as sick as your secrets. And I love how that book ends. And, I know we have varying opinions on Dr. Sleep on the pod, but it's I really love that arc of the story. I love when King writes about AA. I love when he writes about sobriety. And then to have it end in this really nasty violence that comes out of nowhere, I was like, this is just exactly what I want.
And that's what I wanted to throw that out there. That had to have been intentional with us playing with our expectations, right?
Absolutely.
Because we have expected with so many of his later works now for him to be weighing in on this, not even later works, even earlier stuff, but to be able to end it with that, it really did. I don't know. It just, I wonder, does this work without the 12-step, narrative part of it, could have just been a conversation.
So. I think so. And we have there's one in the Bizarre Bad Dreams that's similar to this that I don't want to say the name of it because I don't want to spoil it. But to me, I read the story and I'm like, well, what is scarier, the fifth step or getting murdered by a stranger? Or, what would I rather have? Would I rather die or would I rather confess the wrong? So I really love the parallel that kind of saying, no, it can feel as scary as death to try to admit how much of a piece of shit you are to somebody else,
I also think too, I think I had this at number 7. Once I get past 9, I love all these stories. I think I just like the longer ones better. But to me, the ending is great, just from that pure EC Comics pulling the rug out from under you type of gut punch. But I think why it also works for me is that, I love going to therapy. And I'm always like, oh, everyone should be in therapy. But then I'm like, well, wait, a certain type of person is going to take therapy, or in this case, not therapy, but a reformative kind of program, right? And twist it to their own needs. You could argue that the 12-step program has probably made this guy a worse person. Yeah. Because he's still twisting it for his own selfish means. And that to me is very scary because I've met people like that who can kind of take something that's supposed to be this tool for vulnerability and growth and just use it as a means to keep destroying. And that really, really gets to me.
Any other thoughts?
I would say I think this story had to unwind with the program being a part of it, because otherwise, because first of all, you immediately sympathize with whom you believe is a sympathetic character, because we think, oh my God, this must be so difficult for this person to do this, as opposed to just somebody who's just having a random conversation. I would have my hackles up a little bit more, I think.
Do you feel, I feel like King's writing himself as the person having to listen to it. There's just the body language.
I do wonder if he's been a sponsor before. And that's his private recovery, so I don't want to speculate. But I think that a lot when I hear him write about AA meetings. I'm like, what have you seen in your meetings?
Well, even on top of that, everybody knows, especially his fans, know his issues in the past with drugs and alcohol, right? It wouldn't surprise me if somebody, not just a sponsorship situation, but somebody who just, a stranger has come up to him and just started pouring them their heart and soul out, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have to really control myself not to do it myself, you know?
Jen, don't bring up the fifth step.
I know. Well, and it's interesting
Only
because we have this with Cujo or rattlesnakes, which is, you know, a story he wrote at the height of his addiction too. And I think there's a lot, I don't want to jump the gun, but I think there's a lot of parallels in that story to addiction. And I think one of his stories that is most about addiction. So it's just interesting. I think Dr. Sleep comes from a person who's had a lot of sobriety, and I think this story does too. And I think you're right. I think he's the person on the bench. He's not the person telling the secrets.
Well, Bernardo Bertolucci, in 2003, romantic drama film. Ava Green, Michael Pitt, The Dreamers. Number 4.
All right.
So,
Michael Pitt, Lisi's story.
Yeah. Hey, how about that?
Hannibal.
Trying to think of another. Boardwalk Empire.
Dawson's Creek.
Lucky numbers.
That's right.
Bully.
Funny games.
Alligators are also in Bully.
We're all,
here
hey,
we go.
Brad Renfro, app pupil, King's Dominion.
That's right. There it is.
Okay, so
we're
number
back.
4, The Dreamers. This is another original. In fact, from here on out, we have all originals, which is very telling.
And as a reader and somebody who has been covering it on this podcast for 7 years, very comforting.
Yes.
Yes.
Very comforting. Jen, tell us what The Dreamers is about.
I feel like I have to say it like that.
Yes.
A temp employee takes a job with a magician, hoping to discover what lies beyond the veil. He pays test subjects to sleep, then records their visions of a sinister red house with a green door.
Not to be confused with Insidious, which is the red
That's
door.
right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's a bird's eye. There's a lot more that goes on in this story, and it's interesting.
It's so King, while speaking to Talking Scared last year, he teased this story. He said, one night I was lying in bed. I tell myself stories before I go to sleep. Classic King. That's how I get to sleep. I had this image of a man who is under some kind of drug. He opens his eyes and they turn black and these tendrils start to come out of his eyeballs. They just creep me out. I couldn't think about that anymore. I put that aside. The next day I said to myself, oh, I remember that book, Lovecraft's Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I said, what if a man didn't get through the wall of sleep or over the wall of sleep, but under it? What if there was something beyond that wall, beyond the actual dreams that we have, a reality that's huge, that's apocalyptic, some huge darkness that's sentient, that had something like that? I thought that goes with the tendrils and the eyeballs. I had that story like that, but I couldn't think about it at night. I couldn't do that because it was just so creepy to me.
And then Tabitha said, I've got to get some sleep.
I know. It's like, will you turn on CSI or something?
Forensic Files. That's a good sleep show.
Lovecraft is all over this. But this one actually really reminds me of just like classic King, in the vein of like, you know, not only Jerusalem's Lot, but the old stories like I Was a Teenage Grave Robber, which is one that we covered in the archives. Jen, you remember that one, right?
I think it was our first archive study.
Yeah. And just that idea of going to this house in a remote location. There's just something so old school about this story. And the setup alone is like what got me. Justin.
Yeah.
Can I just read this quote?
Yeah.
That has been grossing me out for weeks now. His eyelids began to bulge until the eyes beneath must have swelled almost to the size of golf balls, as if from an infusion of hydrostatic fluid. The lids didn't open naturally, but split apart. Devereaux's eyes had been gray. The eyes which continued to protrude from their sockets were dead black. They grew like tumors out of his face, like you said, Mike.
That is such a gross image.
I have eye things too. This story, this collection between claustrophobia in an airplane, alligators, and an eye violence really hit me hard.
Yeah. But I think this is the scariest one because like on the opposite end of the fear spectrum, I have On page 437, the rain came mixed with hailstones that stung like bees. He went back to the big house and I went back to the small one. Hail rattled on the windows, the wind. I dreamed that night of a hollow moon filled with demons eating each other alive, eating themselves alive like the worm Ouroboros. I could see the red house below the hollow moon, the green door. It's just so creepy.
Yeah. This is a dark one, and I wondered, did this scare you as much as it scared King?
Oh, fuck yeah. And it gave me Firestarter vibes too, with the test subjects too.
I wonder if I love this story, and it definitely does feel like the most straightforward horror story, right? Despite dealing with some bigger themes that we're talking about. It scares me from the body horror aspect, from the complicity aspect. This is another one that gives me Everything's Eventual vibes, because it's like someone doing work for someone that they don't really understand.
Yeah.
I wonder if the Vietnam angle scares King more than it does us. You know what I mean? Because I feel like guys his age, Springsteen age, Vietnam just kind of haunts them, I think. And even though neither of those men fought, they knew people who died there. And I think it just like is this kind of inescapable thing for them. And I wonder if there's more of that at play than we're realizing.
Well, it appears to be inescapable for the protagonist with what the messages that he's receiving from his past. I mean, I don't think this is going to be this will be as revelatory as me saying, "Hey, Javert." I mean, I got the Jaunt and Revival vibes.
Yeah.
Strongly. No spoilers.
Jaunt for sure. The ending of this reminded me of 1408 with Mike in the living room.
Yeah. Even if you escape this room, you're never going to escape this room. Yeah.
Yeah. Which those are my favorite type of endings from King. I guess if I had to, play devil's advocate, I did have not issues per se, but this just happens. I mean, this felt very Buick 8 for me, where you're meddling with another world and things are coming out that you can't really explain. And I think he finds himself in situations where there are unexplainable horrors. Like 1408 is a really good example of that. But what works in 1408 is that you understand the chaos because it's tangible enough where you're like, all right, we're in the room. I'm seeing some imagery here. I can't explain all of it, but I get it. I see it. There were some aspects of like the tendrils, especially like when he's talking about how the tendrils are in the room and just lingering. I was struggling to figure out what he meant by that. Like, were they floating like the ending of Haunting of Hill House? Like, I think for me, I kept rereading some things, and this happens to me in Dark Tower world also, where I'm just trying to grasp what's at hand. And, at times it does lead to more frightening imagery because it's like, the unknown is the most terrifying thing that you could possibly, try to rationalize in your head. But there were moments where I'm like, fuck, I want to know what he's talking about. But did anyone else kind of struggle with the tendrils aspect, especially just the idea of it lingering there? I think that for me was like, what did that mean? Like, was it on the floor?
I think they make a point at a certain point, not right away, but that the tendrils themselves are physical. I think you can break them off, or there's something
Doesn't
about
he
that, right?
Put them in a bag? Or
Yeah, they're physical. Yeah.
He also says the tendrils are confetti too. So just like the ending of Haunting of Hill House.
Mike Flanagan, get your heart out.
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean. I had to go back and reread that. And I think you and I kind of read similarly. Like, it's hard for us to track the visual stuff all the time. I did have to go back and read that part to figure out what happened to the guy and the tendrils,
I just this didn't know he had it in him to do something like this, which is great.
I mean, I mentioned the grotesquerie about the eyes, but there was something about the first test subjects, the woman's teeth expanding.
Yeah, I was trying to. Was it the teeth were floating, maybe, or they're like
the teeth were just getting bigger?
Yeah. Ugh.
Well, and there's the matter of fact quality of the way he disposes of the body, and then like. It's like we see the aftermath of all the horror, and that is just as horrifying as what happens to this magician dude. And that's, I think that goes back to the horror in the daylight kind of like mundanity of evil or mundanity of horror too, that I find like really surprisingly dark,
We were all pretty even on this one though.
I do have a question though.
Yeah.
So at the end of this one, King writes thoughts of Cormac McCarthy and Evangeline Walton. I'm fairly familiar with McCarthy at this point. I don't understand the McCarthy comp. Dan, you're definitely like steeped in McCarthy, right?
I was wondering about this too. I mean, At first, I was thinking about like the apocalyptic kind of tone, or it honestly may have just been written when McCarthy died, which wasn't too long ago. So maybe because there are other stories in here that feel more akin to McCarthy than this one does. But I was wondering if it was just him feeling the spirit of McCarthy on his shoulder because he had recently passed away.
I wonder if it's in the ending.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, that's. What if it's the ending? Because it does have that very similar ending to even kind of how he ends No Country, where it's just this sort of like, well, this is going to linger with me, But I don't know. I couldn't really
Blood Meridian or something too.
Escaping Retribution also too. That's a very McCarthyan thing. Like not like this guy's complicit, never faces any kind of consequences. Like if like McCarthy's villains often get away.
But do that?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to.
Well, I'm not familiar with. He also said thinking of Evangeline Walton. Anybody familiar with her?
She's in Lost, right?
No, that's Evangeline.
Her family opened a Walmart.
I think she was also the lead on that show that starred the guy who played Bill from the miniseries, The Waltons.
Oh yeah, Good Night, John Boy.
John Boy.
Well, we're all wrong.
Here's the thing. Maybe there's a combination of her style and McCarthy together is the Dreamers. I'm wondering if that's what it is.
I think that's probably exactly it.
Yeah.
She wrote notable works. It was the Mabinogion tetralogy, which is the Cross and the Sword, Witch House. Oh, Witch House. That's I feel like I've
Lovecraft has the Dreams of the Witch House.
Yeah, because it was published in 1945 by Arkham House in edition. Interesting. I mean, I want to check this. I want to look into her more. Yeah, she passed away in 96. But yeah, she won several fantasy awards. Witch House seems to be a big one for her. So maybe we dive into that. Maybe we go from this house and the Dreamers to Witch House. But
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
Wait, which house are you talking about?
Witch House?
Who's
Witch House? Wait,
Witch
what?
House? What house? I wonder if it's the Lovecraftian versus the McCarthy kind of dryness that in the marriage of that,
One thing I could say about Walton and McCarthy, or not McCarthy. Wait, sorry. One thing I can say about Walton and McCarthy, they are certainly two talented bastards, which is number 3.
We're keeping that whole transition in there.
I know, we are.
No cutting.
I know. It's good. It's good. It's been a pretty clean episode up until then. So this is another original. Jen, what is this one about?
An elderly writer, not at all an avatar for King, rejects an interview about his uncanny success, but guides his son to a chronicle of an alien encounter that changed his life.
So nothing from King yet on this one. I cannot wait to hear him talk about this one because this one is just so in the backyard that you almost wonder it could have fallen apart because it's so close to home. And yet, God, did I fucking love this story. And it has aliens and it's, we always talk about how it's a hit or miss. I know there are people that love the Tommy knockers and
this is like, what if Dreamcatcher worked?
I know, yeah.
Well, no, I kept waiting for it to fall apart because it has this kind of weird framing device. Like I sort of was questioning in the beginning. I'm like, well, do we need the newspaper story being written about? Do we need this like story within a story within a story? And then as it goes on, it's clear that you do because it is so much about creativity and writing. I feel like that's kind of the point of it, right? Like how this affects all of us. But man, he sticks that landing. Like it felt very tenuous to me the whole time. And then at the end, I'm like, oh no, you did it. You did it, King. You did it again.
You're doing it.
I love that the son who's telling the story. I think you want to talk about what King was talking about in the afterword about, having your own insecurities. Like the son in this story represents so many of us.
Yeah.
Who can literally only imagine having the capabilities of people that we admire so much, but we will never have, or feel that we'll never have. And I think that's what the son is kind of contending with in this story too.
Yeah. The ending. We're not doing word processor, but I'll read it. The ending is just fucking great. In that dusty, ready to fall down cabin where two men once met a being from another world, I thought I would love to play Boogie Woogie Stomp like Albert Ammons just once. Once would be enough, I told myself, knowing it would not be. It never is. I blew on the wave. A line appeared in the middle of the case, held for a moment, and then disappeared. I stood there for a while, holding the case, and put it back on the mantle. I remembered the young man saying, "Nothing can give you what isn't already there." "It's all right," I said, and laughed a little. It wasn't all right. It stung. But I understood. The sting would go away. I'd go back to my life and the sting would go away. I had my famous father's affairs to tie up. That would keep me busy. And I'd have plenty of money. Maybe I'd go to Aruba. It's all right to want what you can't have. You learn to live with it. I tell myself that. And mostly I believe it. Like,
I mean,
that is
this is
fucking
why
great.
The bookend, this is a bookend with The Answer Man. It's perfect.
It is.
Just everything you read there. And if you read The Answer Man, it's like, of course, these are bookending this collection.
Yeah. This, I also just love the world. Like when you talk about, it's so easy to have King's Dominion, and we'll certainly get into it with rattlesnakes. But what I love about King, and I talked about this on the 1122 episode, is just when he's in his own backyard and he just kind of has fun and he just lets us be in that world. And there's no mistaking what we're seeing at that point. I think he just knows how to paint it so well that I really do genuinely feel like I'm there in these moments. And so, when they're going back to the bridge, when they're going back to the cabin, and even when they're returning later, I just saw it so clearly in my head. And everything felt so real and so lived in and so embedded in the world that we know so well, which is King's Dominion, even down to like the references to Castle Rock. There's references to Mike Noonan. There's so many references all throughout this. And I loved it. And it wasn't distracting. It just felt so natural. And then to have a landing like that, it just blew me away. And that was one of the reasons why, like, I think one of the things I tweeted on it, I'm not supposed to do that, but I retweeted, it was just like, God, he's one talented bastard. Because to open the fucking book with this, it's like,
hey, there's nothing
wrong
with
that. Great flex. Yeah. Great fucking
I had
flex.
This is my runner up. I love this one. This is, I also love how they talk about the suicide stairs from Gwendy's.
Yes, they do.
Oh, I wrote down everything. Hold on.
There's a lot. I put too much to
ton.
count, but there's a lot. This is definitely a Castle Rock story for sure.
Yeah.
We've got Derry, Harlow, Castle County, the Deep Cut, Castle Rock High, Lewiston, Lisbon Street, Bates High, Pie Eating Contest, Micmac, District 19, Willis Jeep from Firestarter, the Noonan Place, IBM Selectric, Suicide Stairs. There's a reference to the Marston House.
Yeah.
Wonder Bread, which Arnie and Dennis used to eat. Like it's like room 2237 Christmas.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Even I couldn't write down the 19s. I was like, too much.
Exactly. And
Too much
but
to
I
count.
feel like, and for it not to fall apart, for him to execute the story with the kind of talent he is writing about in the story too, I think is so impressive. Because the beginning is just kind of him like talking about his career and not wanting to do an interview, but I still love it. I want to stay there. I want to eat that fucking muffin. And also we've been at the gates too. It's so clearly about him,
Well, it's also the whole, where do you get your ideas?
Yep.
Right.
I got them from an alien who came down and had a suit. I mean, that's just also a great joke.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh,
do you guys think it was an alien, or it doesn't really matter in many ways, but do you think it for real was an alien?
It was him and John Grisham there.
See, I think there's an alien definitely in this, and I don't think that Willie's father was possessed. That's where I stand on that.
It's funny because I'm like kind of
Willie
flipped
is
on
the alien.
that, but
I think it's an alien.
Well, it's because there's a case there, and even with the son coming back, it does say that the lines, there are lines on it, right? On that little case. So the fact that the case is there was interesting to me. The alien thing could have fallen apart also. It could have been so saccharine.
It's so weird.
Yeah, I think the weirdness of it all, and the way that he's able to kind of.
He never goes too far with it.
Yeah, he doesn't. He really doesn't.
If he went more explicit with how he portrays the aliens almost, you know what it is? I feel like to me, from the best alien narratives are ones that kind of frame them in a way where it feels slightly vague and almost incomprehensible to us. And I feel like he kind of does that here, despite it taking a somewhat human form. Whereas with like Dreamcatcher, it's almost too explicit,
over the top,
describe too much.
Is another great example. How many times have I said, God, I wish this was just a short story? Mm-hmm. Aren't you happy this is just a short story, or maybe even a novella, however you want to describe it? This is the perfect length for this specific type of storytelling.
I also think it's so dark too. Like, it seems you read it and it feels so light and pleasant, especially to lead off a book about dark stories. But like, it's also a thinker too, because if you think about it, how hopeless is it to know that you're never going to have this talent that you're constantly confronted with, you know?
Yeah, it's no good.
Where was your mind at when they kept teasing the incident in the woods?
I think I was thinking aliens.
Yeah, so was I. I thought I didn't think it was going to be
been.
an accident or a murder.
And also, it does have Dreamcatcher vibes. You know, they're going out to a cabin, some boy time. You know, I did think about you too, Mike, because I know how much you love when he writes about like nature in the woods too. And there's some like really, really gorgeous writing about like being alone is when you're your best self or your most honest self.
Yeah,
it's just there's such a wide spectrum of really great writing in this story.
So you all had aliens on the radar.
I did.
This.
I think so.
Did not, but once again,
I
this
didn't
is in the
either.
middle of
What
me
were
reading
y'all
a bunch
thinking?
of Jack Ketchum, which
Oh yeah, you're like cannibals.
No, I thought
Clearly
they were
it's
going to see
cannibals.
something really horrible, but that they were going to. I thought they were going to see something horrible that they didn't intervene with, and but that was going to inspire their ability somehow.
That would have been pretty
Ah.
interesting too.
Yeah.
That would have been dark.
That's especially when the shooting started. They start hearing the hunters. That's where my mind was at. Was that something? Yeah, it was. I'm not going to say a deliverance type of level of
But like an 11/22 kind of thing where somebody gets shot in the woods.
Yeah, or like something really dark that would change them forever. That they could never really bring up. But this was a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. Very Starman-esque in a way for me. And I say that in a good way. You know,
that's the way the alien behavior, especially at the end. Yeah, that's a good comp.
How do you feel Joe and Owen are going to react to this one?
I think that they've done enough in their careers to feel like this is not about them. I think they're going
I
to
think
just
their grandkids are going to love it.
Their grandkids are going to
or
love
their own kids, yeah.
on Slide In Road. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he just walks by him. He's like, you think either of you can be the king? Think again.
I could see. I wonder if
read the first story, fucko.
yeah, if Owen's like, hey, I got this idea for a new collaboration, and he's like, here, can you be my IR for this story?
Yeah.
God, he's like swinging a baseball bat signed by the 2004 Red Sox, just like sitting there, just like, and it's like, did you read the bastards I sent you in the email, Owen? Is there an argument to be had that this is the best alien story that he's written?
Let's think about it.
I Am the Doorway for me.
Oh
yeah. I forgot about that
great.
one.
Fuck
That
yeah,
one is
that
good.
is the best. That
We
is the
can
best.
cover the night shift again eventually. I'm looking forward to that.
I know.
Hey, Twinner.
Yeah, that is
Twinner
true.
up. Yeah, you're
It'll
right.
be coming up.
I mean, I think it is his second best, though. Like, I am struggling to think about all of his alien stories, and I'm not a big alien horror person, but I
I'm not
really
either.
loved this because
There's some in
so
Nightmares and Dreamscapes. There's the one. Oh, what is it? It's the maybe I'm just talking to myself now. I'm trying to think about the one with the teacher.
Oh, is
Isn't
that an aliens one?
Or is that a monster
I mean, it could
one?
be. I think it's a monster one.
You know what?
But it could
We'll
be.
never
an
know.
alien.
We'll never know.
That's true. That's yeah.
I think
That's
I
what
Am
I
the
always go
Doorway
to.
is
'Cause she
that
kills
is a
them all.
perfect one though. It's just
yeah.
it's hard to beat that one. It's hard to beat. Tough beat. But hey, good to have a run. Who would have thought you'd have a runner up almost 50 years later?
And
Jesus
again-
And then it
Christ.
would be this. Like
Yeah.
this is so far away from I Am the Doorway too, you know?
It's the yin and the yang.
Because I could say that is this like one of his most sentimental stories? Is
Oh.
this one of his best stories about talent? Like
But that's a
or
great
about
example
writing,
of
you
the
know?
sentimental versus saccharine.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
is not. I don't get any
exactly.
saccharine vibes from this. Saccharine vibes.
I know we always joke about King writing about writers, but it is a well that doesn't dry up for him. I feel like he always
Yeah.
has new things to say about it, and not just writers, but writing about their creative process, not just characters who are writers, but like I think between this, Lisi's story, Doom McKee, which isn't a writer, but he writes about creativity in such an interesting way, and I can't think of any other horror novelist who comes back to it. Peter
Jones?
Straub a little bit, but in his Blue Rose trilogy, but yeah, I think
Like-
King is like, it's amazing that he's done this so many times and still finds new avenues for it.
Yeah, because you look at I love Brady Snellis, one of my favorite authors of all time, if not my favorite author. But it's always just him, you know.
Yeah,
when
literally.
he's talking about writing, it's really just. I mean, it's literally about him, or metaphysically, it's about him. But with King, I do think it's this well that you're saying that you do write what you know, right? And what better way to have, we talked all about the nuances that he adds to even his later works, like even just this one and this 50 years into his career. And so it would make sense that, he just leans on everything he knows, which is the written word in a way Oh, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I don't want to bust.
No,
your
go for it. Go for it.
transition. But it is interesting because we were talking earlier about the insecurity that he mentions or that you can feel. And there's this section with line edits too,
Yes.
which I think is, and so there's almost a like, what if quality, kind of like we talked about with Finn, like what if I'm not as good as I think I am? What if I wake up one day and the magic is gone?
Well, that absolutely dovetails with this story because I think that is a big part of it, is that this is essentially, I mean, what do we make of him having talents or quote unquote talents from this encounter? You know, do you look at him less than as a creator? Do you think that this is sort of a deus ex machina for this person? You know, I mean, I'm just looking at separate from the story, but him as a creator.
Yeah.
This
How do you
particular
see it?
character you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both
Well,
of
and
these, to have their success, do you attribute their success to their own personal triumphs, or do you still just be like, well, if it wasn't an encounter in the woods?
This isn't a Milli Vanilli situation necessarily. I think that it's hard to get. If you found out that they were given these gifts, and that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the fact it's what they did to receive these gifts.
Yeah,
That I think makes it more like, you know what, go with God. Congratulations, enjoy your successes. I'm not going to be angry at it.
Well, and also in On Writing, he talks about how, you know, you can make a good writer better, but you can't make a bad writer a good writer. Like it has to be there. And when I think about what the gift actually is, the gift itself is not talent. The gift is removing the static that gets in the way of the talent. So like, I think it's really just kind of revealing what's already there. So I think it just makes me wish I could like clear out all the shit in my head, you know?
Joke.
Yeah, I know. So does my therapist. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
same.
get him out of
This
here.
session's over.
Yeah, you know, but I'm glad that you brought that up, Jen, because I think it's another parallel to just like trying to find the solution for what all this is. And I think at 75, 76, he's certainly still thinking that, and is going to probably carry that on to the end of his life. And I don't blame him. I mean, it's got to be something. I think we always pinch. I mean, that was literally the first thing we asked him in the interview. It's just like, how do you live? You know, how do you not know that you're Stephen King? You know, how do you move on from the past that you know, going forward that you are Stephen King? This prolific. I mean, it's something. It's certainly a weird surrealism that I imagine you would have even as that person. So
He's like, well, Mike, I'm a literary guy.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, actually, I've
Speak
been
of the
Richard
transition.
Bachman this whole
Transitions.
time. So
Well, it's almost like you
Bachman,
know, him writing these stories, he's looking for answers. And fortunately,
Heyo.
he wrote one of them in The Answer Man, which is number 2.
Wow.
Number
would have been
2.
number 1 if it was The Answer Woman.
Well, this is very close. This is very, very close, and it's my fault. It's my fault. It's my fault. You know, this is to quote Ray Stantz.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
But
To quote Good Will Hunting.
yeah. So this is another original. And here's what I was blown away, because he says that this one dated back to when he was 30 years old.
Wow.
This is what he says in the afterword. The only other one worth mentioning is The Answer Man. My nephew, John Leonard, dug around in my old stuff, a lot of it unfinished and long forgotten. He made a photocopy of one particular 6-page fragment with a note attached saying it was too good not to finish. I read it and thought he was right. Those first few pages were written when I was 30. I finished it when I was 75. While working on it, I had the oddest sense of calling into a canyon of time and listening for the echo to come back. Does that even make sense? I don't know. I just know it's how I felt. I mean, Jen, tell us what this is about first before we go into the questions.
Okay. Again, a bird's eye summary. A man charts his life in unanswered questions marked by encounters with an otherworldly fellow selling answers to any question.
So I did not know about that when I read this. In fact, I skipped ahead. I said I was jumping around. I skipped ahead of this because Justin texted me and you said something like, you won't be prepared. You said something like around the lines of like, you won't be prepared for the answer. Like, you know, have you and I was like eating dinner and I was like, all right, I got to go fucking read this. Sorry. And so I was blown away and I just was, you know, just in tears and just, I had to sit back there for a little bit before I came back out. And then I read this and I can't think of a more fitting story to be written like Richard Linklater's Boyhood. Like, I mean, that passage of time in hindsight is so important to the short story that I now wonder what this story would have looked like if he had finished it at 30, and it certainly wouldn't have landed where it is.
You don't get that ending.
No,
the
you don't.
very,
Absolutely
very
not.
end. Very, very end of him driving with the dog. I don't think you get that if you read it when you're younger.
Yeah.
Like, what a cool, it might be one of my favorite backstories to any of his short stories now. I mean, I read that.
the Carrie story where his wife's telling him,
Yeah.
hey, actually there's
Yeah,
something
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Do you
So-
guys
Yeah,
think
go for it.
this is like not for me, feel good is too strong a word, but the redemptive version of like a story like Fair Extension and Full Dark No Stars? I kept
I was
I
thinking
had the
that.
same note. I thought
Me
that
too.
the Answer Man is more than a passing resemblance to, I forgot the goofy devil name that he's got. in,
Elvid.
Elvid, that's right.
Count Alucard.
It's this
Yeah.
what? It's like the opposite. It's the flip side of the same coin or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe they work for the same company.
The thing is, like, if you just were to give somebody the last 2 pages of this story, you could say, "Oh, this is sentimental," or "This is Drac," or what. But no, because you read it, you think it's going to be this descent into hell, kind of like what happens to somebody in Fair Extension, if not the main character. And it is absolutely descent into hell, until it reminds us that if you find yourself in a hell on earth, it is not necessarily permanent.
Yeah.
And I think that is incredibly powerful. I mean, I'll just say my story now.
Yeah.
I was reading this on the CTA on my way home. I was in the corner of the train, and I was reading like the last page, and I said, "Oh my God, he's gonna nail this," and he did. And I literally started crying on the train. And I can't remember the last time I reacted like this to not just a King story, but anything in pop culture that I was experiencing fresh. I mean, this story truly moved me, and I'm not being hyperbolic. I think this is his best short story in decades for me. I just thought the world of it, and it's still sticking with me weeks later. The way this thing unfolds, it reminded me of kind of it reminded me of The Giving Tree.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
100%.
The Shel
Yeah.
Silverstein story I mean, I don't know. This just it worked on me. It just killed me in a good way, in the best way.
This is the one I was. You mentioned Clint Eastwood as far as casting. This is the one I was like, especially towards the end of this. I mean, do we want to read the last part? I mean, do you want to read it? Do you have it up?
I don't have it. I can read my copy, but
I got it.
Get it off.
So it's got the last part right here. So I don't want to go to the whole Windy Day, but I don't even know where to start. Okay. I'm just going to start here. Phil decided he no longer wanted to ask, why me? It was the answer man would have said another important question. It was him because he was him. There was no other reason. Nor was he curious about how long he would live. He might see the snow fly, but it was a sure thing he wasn't going to be around for the spring melt. There was only one thing he was curious about. Do we go on after we die? Do we go on? Yes. The grayness started to come, closing in around them very slowly. At the same time, the answer man began to recede, also very slowly. Phil didn't mind. There was no headache. That was a relief. And the foliage, what he could still see of it, was very beautiful. In fall, the trees burned so bright at the end of the cycle. And since all the answers were free, is it heaven we go to? Is it hell? Is it reincarnation? Are we still ourselves? Do we remember? Will I see my wife and son? Will it be good? Will it be awful? Are there dreams? Is there sorrow or joy or any emotion? The answer man, almost lost in the gray, said yes. And then it doesn't.
The story alone, and then the incredible. You just mentioned like the pastoral imagery once again that King has always been great at. Like that coupling is just.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and to think this is like, because he does say, I think we go on in Pet Cemetery, which is, I think, his book, like the really examining death and the fear of love and the fear of like having a family, which we see a family fall apart in this story too. So it's just, it feels like he has found his answer through writing all of these stories that have come between then and now. And it's just, it's so like gorgeous, but also like there's a nihilism there of like, if nothing matters, then everything can matter. And when you stop trying to find the answers, that's when the answers appear. And but you can't force it, you know?
Yep.
Mike, there's like the last paragraph is about the dog, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that there wasn't a different edition. Because it's almost like the antithesis, or you said Pet Sematary, Jen, right? It's almost like the good kind of resurrection, right? And I didn't read it necessarily as like a literal resurrection. Like when I think about my own ideas of the afterlife, I'm agnostic, and I think I lean more toward there probably isn't anything, but I also really hope I'm wrong.
Oh yeah,
and I feel like I really hope I'm wrong, especially the older I get. And I feel like the book was weirdly like an affirmation of that. Like that ending can be interpreted so many ways depending on who you are.
But it doesn't seem like a cop out. It doesn't seem like a cop out at all, which is what I love about it. It could have, but it does not feel that way.
And we always talk about how King is usually very literal, and I feel like this is an example of him not being literal, but also somehow still being very straightforward and making room for everyone and whatever their belief is. And I mean, just echoing everything you guys are saying, I was so moved by this. Like I felt so moved and emotionally hard hit, but also very comforted by that ending. But you could read it as nihilistic too. I mean, I don't know. I think he's just pulling off such a high wire act with that last page.
I think, what did I text you afterwards when I finished? I said it scared me and made me cry, I think, at the same time.
Yeah.
Did you also catch my joke? Because you asked me a bunch of questions about it, and I went, yes.
Yeah.
And that's before you read it. And
great.
Before you read it, I went,
great.
See what I did there?
We say this every time he writes some sort of wonderful funereal-esque story. We did this even with Billy Summers. But this could have been his final story, right? Like, this is a perfect coda.
The same thing. And I know people are like, no, I'm like, look, God bless him. Keep going. But this is another example of, if this was it, I'm putting the pen down. I'm heading to Sarasota forever.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean, that's what an ending.
It's our Unity concert. We can always just pretend that it is the last story if we want to,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I do love this idea of going back to his older works. I mean, there's something to be said about this being a piece that he had when he was in his 30s that he came back to, and it became one of his best works. We said the same thing about 11/22. We said the same thing about Under the Dome. There's something to be said about maybe King. It's not a bad idea to kind of look at some of these old things that are in the attic and see what you can do with it. I mean,
Blaze too,
he's kind of
Blaze,
allowed himself. I think he's afforded himself that ability to do that, which in that sense would be kind of such a cool, unique twist on that model, because most of the time when musicians do this, because it's mostly musicians who do that, with the exception of Grisham, who everyone says he publishes his high school fucking shit at this point, but it never really works well. Like there's some examples, like the Van Halen album where they went back to some of their old demos. That was cool when they did that, and the songs worked out well. But to reach this sort of greatness, and especially when you look at like 11/22 doing the same thing, hey, if there's another chest, go for it. Just keep doing it.
It's what we've been saying. It's like, not only it's not lazy, because again, that story that he might have started decades ago would not have had the same impact without him being in the 70s.
Yep. Same thing with Under the Dome. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I think like the ending is so spectacular too that I think like it's easy to forget about how great the story is leading up to it.
Exactly.
Like it's dark, and like Dan, you mentioned comfort. Like there's a comfort in watching this distant view of a life passing by that you're not involved in. But like that middle chapter is horrific. Yeah. Like that is Pet Sematary come to life without the supernatural element, or revival.
I was as shocked at the kind of happy upturn in this that I was with the dark ending of the fifth step. Mm-hmm. I could not believe where it ended up going in the second half of this story. I was really shocked.
And I love that why me is just because there is no answer.
Exactly. Yes, that's the answer.
Here's my final piece on this. It's been reported that Frank Darabont's going back to the director's chair for Stranger Things.
this is a perfect fourth Frank Darabont movie.
Oh my god.
Like,
Jesus.
just would absolutely land this. And it's funny because, I'm sure other folks would say, "Oh, Flanagan," but the problem with that is that there is some spiritual ties to Life of Chuck with this.
I was going to say that this feels like Life of Chuck, and he's got that.
And he can't do both. But like this, to me, I even saw like the Thomas. I just saw the ending. I saw the swells. Just God, it would be fucking perfect for a Darabont movie.
But
I wish Brooks was still alive.
If he did that, he would shoot the dog in the head and then get out, and the answer man
he changes the ending. Yeah,
this is not Buried Alive or The Mist. This is more, Shawshank.
Shawshank. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Majestic.
Well, possibly my favorite character of all time. He's not scared of anything except for one thing: snakes. He hates snakes. That is Indiana Jones. And
I thought you were talking about Cujo, and you're going to say he's only afraid of water.
No. He loves dogs. In fact, he's named after a dog, Indiana. But number one, rattlesnakes is certainly something that Indy would probably run from. Another original, and one that was announced here, which is surreal. And I know I've hammered on this nonstop throughout the thing, but it is. I was thinking about this while reading the story and finishing it. And there is something pretty, we don't do this on the show because we always try to act cool, but I'm going to do it now. There is something fucking cool about the fact that one of the few sequels that he's ever written, the first time anyone ever heard about it was through a conversation. Like there's something really surreal about that. Mm-hmm. And for it to be about Cujo, which is a fucking story that we jokingly always kick around on Needful Tweets episodes. I don't know. It was hard not to think about that while reading this, but I swear to God, that did not color my opinion of the story at all.
No.
But before we get into it, Jen, our last synopsis for the night.
All right. Vic Trenton from Cujo takes a Duma Key-style vacation to mourn Donna's death. There, he meets another grieving parent and ghostly twins who remind him of his own dead son.
So King says in the afterword, and the way he conceived of this story is basically a story that he has in this this collection of stories. He says, "One day while I was taking my morning walk," which is literally 2 or 3 of the characters in this book, including Vic, listening to the Jeff Healey band playing Highway 49 and thinking of nothing but how cool that slide guitar solo is. All right, let's calm down, Steve. I saw 2 green plastic figures wearing red caps. They were flanking the road and bore the warning, "Slow children at play." The story rattlesnakes came into my mind, fully blown. The only thing I didn't know in that moment of conception was that an old friend from Cujo, not the St. Bernard, a novel I'd written long ago, would be the main character. That's how it works for me sometimes. A story will fully arrive formed, just waiting for the right trigger to declare itself. It's a very cool thing. I rarely know the details. The elderly cop and rattlesnakes, Andy Pelly, came out of nowhere, or how the stories are supposed to finish up. Part of the joy for me, at least, is in the discovery. Why this process works or how it works is a complete mystery to me. First off, Jeff Healey, pretty sure that's the guitarist from Roadhouse. I think he passed away. Let me look this up. But I feel like I've been seeing Jeff Healey, like that name, like non-fucking stop. It's Jeff Healey from Roadhouse. He didn't. He passed away young. But I don't know if it's just Roadhouse being in the lexicon again, but like I swear to God, Jeff Healey has popped up like multiple times over the last 2 months. My dad texted me randomly about Jeff Healey. I'm like, "What, did you watch Roadhouse again?" He's like, "No." And he's just, I know it's weird.
He's like, Jeff Healey would have rolled over in his grave if he saw Amazon Prime Roadhouse.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't have liked it. But so this was a fairly unanimous pick for us. Everyone had it at number 1 except for Justin.
Oh wow, I had this number 3. Yeah.
So
very good.
I will say this was the hardest one for me to choose because The Answer Man was number 1 for me for a while, and I'll go into why. But I think it's safe to say this sequel lived up to the hype, and I wanted to just throw it out there first. Why? Why does it work?
I think because, it's like I said before. I think it does something different. We're not having Vic trapped the dog all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
I think it comes towards the end of this short story collection that's all about moving through grief and musing on mortality and chance and luck and fate and all that. It does it quite wonderfully. I think it includes a very realistic examination of a marriage that's flawed, but also filled with love. Ultimately, I think them getting remarried is such a smart choice and just feels distinct and different. I know Justin's read this book. I don't know if maybe this is a big over comparison. I got like Lincoln in the Bardo vibes from how he depicts the spirits of the kids and this idea of, you know what it is for me? It's that they needed his permission, or they needed to be let go and released to the spiritual realm. And he has sympathy for these children and obviously sees Tad, and it's also about him getting over Tad and everything like that. But also, King wasn't afraid to make them grotesque and scary, especially when they become these full-grown men. And once again, he's walking that line so well. It's like with the Answer Man, where it's like walking between nihilism and optimism. And here it's the same thing. He's able to have his cake and eat it too. He's able to both be scary and also have sympathy for these very frightening figures, and also have it be a metaphor for grief and mourning his marriage and everything like that. Like he's just doing all the things, and he's never dropping any of the balls. He even has COVID in there, and he's doing that well. I think it's just kind of watching him juggle the whole time. That's why it works for me anyway. Sorry. No, that was kind of rambling.
No, I agree. Jen?
I think for me, it's because it gives Donna an ending that I really love. I love Cujo so much. It's such a hard book to read, but like it really means a lot to me, both like as a parent and as a sober person, and like to know that he doesn't remember writing it, and to see him kind of confront that in his story and talk about the memories, you know? And I think it pairs so well with the Answer Man too, because when he's talking, sorry, am I stepping on all your points?
Keep going. This is literally what I was going to say. This, and yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, because he's saying on page 332, he's talking about Cujo. He said, he died of dehydration in a hot car. I never blamed my wife for it. She almost died with him. I never even blamed the dog, a St. Bernard named Cujo, who circled and circled our dead Ford Pinto for 3 days under the hammering summer sun. And then later, if Tad had a guardian angel, he was on vacation that day. And I think that to me is, I could ask why me, but the answer is there is no answer. It just happens. Dark shit happens. And I think we see with the twins, what happens when you hang on to that, when you hang on to this need to know, is it just keeps growing and spiraling. And like we go on as Tad goes on. Like Tad has been going on. He's a different thing than he was when he died. And I started crying so hard when he appears to Donna in her final moments, because that's what I want to know. Like, because we go on, it means something for me, but it means something for the people that I'm going to lose before I die too. Like, what is going to happen to the people I've lost? And I think to know Tad and to read that story and to be so heartbroken when he dies, to know that he has gone on and that Donna's going to get to continue that with him, it's just so bittersweet, you know?
Do you guys think?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know, I like what. Sorry, what's the old woman's name in this? I don't have my
Allie, I think.
Allie, yeah.
I love what she says about, oh, of course they're not there, but also they are, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I think about too how we deal with death. Once again, don't know how I feel about the afterlife, but I do know that people in my life who have died, and I'm sure in y'all's life who have died too. I do think the way that eternal life continues is that you hold on to them, you hold on to those memories, you pass them along, those stay with you. So regardless of like whether he's actually seeing the ghost of these kids or not, or whether or not Donna actually saw Tad in the room, or that he ushered her into the next life, once again, it doesn't really matter, because they are keeping that memory alive, and that will continue on. And that feels very much in sync with, I think, what King is saying throughout all these stories, and including Rattlesnakes. But yeah, Justin, sorry, I stepped on you.
I mean, Jim, what you touched upon is it really hit me when I finished this was, yeah, you're right. This is, despite the fact that Cujo itself is a horror icon. That dog's an icon. People who don't know who Stephen King is, if you say Cujo, they know what you're talking about. And it's remarkable that 40 plus years later, this is the first time he's writing about the Trentons and can actually remember it.
Yeah.
And there is something very, you get chills thinking about that.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And that also in its own way for me ties into the Answer Man, where he was at his lowest 40 years ago when he's writing this book. And now 40 years later, he has another chance to write about these characters And I there's just something there too, I think, with that comp with the answer, man. And something else, I love the structure of the main story that is, and then you get the Cujo sequel interspersed throughout. I think that adds to it because, believe it or not, I'm going to bring up Dr. Sleep again, if you can believe it.
I was about to bring up Dr. Sleep too.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Sleep, the book, would have worked better if you just kind of dispersed what happened to Danny after The Shining throughout the book instead of just putting it in the first 50 pages.
Easily.
If it followed this structure, I think it's a better book. Because I love the way that this structure works in Rattlesnakes.
Well, and I think that's what I really came to love about this story while reading it. I mean, I'll say, and I'll admit that I had my own theories. I was like, oh, rattlesnakes, and the fact that he teased the idea of, two kids being stuck in a hole or something like that. I assumed that, like Cujo, it would be, you're trapped in a
100%.
situation like a survival horror thing, or even like kind of like, in a very tight place in the last collection. And I actually still thought that halfway through. I thought they were teasing it, that Vic is going to somehow get trapped somewhere at the north of the island.
Yeah, same.
I thought all these things, and it never really goes there.
Nope.
And it's such a fucking great turn, because it could have easily done that, and you could have easily had something mirror. It's like, oh well, now Vic's in the same thing as Donna, but instead he kind of just leans on his old school roots. And I mean, I always said that my favorite thing with the King sometimes is that I think he makes me cry other than he makes me scared. But like when he does make me scared, holy shit, it's shit that I can never leave and get away from. I've been looking for the images. I can't fucking find it. But that sequence where he goes into the guest room and the two children / men are laying on the bed.
Yeah.
It might be one of the scariest images I've ever read, and certainly in his works. And for him to do that this late is fucking nuts.
Bloated heads of poisoned children on adult bodies.
It's terrifying.
Well, and that doesn't even, the scene where the kids die from the snake bites too. That is on par with what happens to Tad and Cujo.
But it's just for this to be a ghost story, which makes sense too, because you consider the boogeyman aspects and how we've long theorized that the Cujo and the boogeyman have ties together. But what a genius way to swerve. And we bemoan sequels all the time on the Halloweenies, which is ironic considering that we're a horror franchise podcast. I say we, but I meant me. I usually do. But this is what I want from sequels. Give me, go back to the drawing board, but with the characters that you already have, and take us to another place. And this did. This not only took us to another place, but never in a million years would have I dreamed of where he goes in this story.
Yeah.
Just fucking wild to me.
In terms of the sequel, because here's the thing. This story about some retiree coming down, this could still work as a successful short story.
Oh, yeah.
But because you're able to incorporate the Cujo story in its own way, specifically a character, that enhances it. It doesn't feel like it's interfering with the story at all. It doesn't feel like it's, we can only make this movie if you make it, I don't know, Captain America or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not like that.
Well, there's a depth to, we talked about earlier about things being too thin or too long. He doesn't have to worry about the hair because the depth is already built in. And to be able to build upon that. And he does a good way in that, you don't even have to read Cujo to read this and still get it, because he does enough legwork to kind of catch you up. I mean, you should read Cujo before you read this, but you don't have to. And there's a luxury in that as well. But it's just, I think the idea that he was able to kind of build on the grief, I did think about Dr. Sleep, because if he had done this type of thing with Danny, God damn it, I think it would have worked really well. And so it made me wonder though, like we said with the Alien story, is this his best sequel? Not counting the Dark Tower. You can't count the Dark Tower because that's a series. I just don't really.
For me, no. I love Dr. Sleep. That is in maybe top 10 for me for a lot of personal reasons. And I understand the critiques, but I love it. And there's a nod to it in here, like the twinkling Danny or the twinkling Tad at the end is like the twinkling Jack on the platform.
Yeah.
And like, I think if of all the characters he could have chosen to write about, I think, it's these two stories that have so much to do with addiction and sobriety. And the other sequel that we haven't mentioned yet is Do McKee, or we haven't mentioned in this story, which is also a story about recovery and not quite in the same way, but I feel like there's something magic about this key also. Mm-hmm. And like when I think about Do McKee, I think about him just walking a little bit further every day and a little bit further every day. And I think after so many years of sobriety, like he is at a point where he can revisit Cujo now. And that's what makes it so powerful. And I don't know if I had to choose between this and Dr. Sleep, I think I would still pick Dr. Sleep. But I could make an argument that this is his best sequel.
Do you guys think he's teeing us up for like a proper Do McKee sequel with the
same thing?
Yeah.
And I would love it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a proper sequel too, but like another, like the dredging up the land again. I'm like, ooh, this, it feels spooky.
Maybe that gator shows up,
Yeah.
It's your aquatic horror that you've been wanting.
I would love, I loved revisiting Do McKee and stay in Florida, King.
Hey,
think about this line that's in this too. This also kind of goes back to the Answer Man, and even to some of the Two Talented Bastards. Quote, "The world is full of rattlesnakes. Sometimes you step on them and they don't bite. Sometimes you step over them and they bite anyway." There's something about that some people might read that as being, I don't know, passive about inevitability. But I think to me, that's just kind of like, look, bad things are going to happen. Yeah. Sometimes no matter what you do is inevitable. You just have to accept it and live your life. And I think there's something good about that.
That could be the thesis of the book, I think.
Yes.
I think so.
Well, it's like the stranger says in the Lebowski, sometimes you eat the bear and sometimes he eats you, And speaking of Roadhouse.
Speaking of Jeff Bridges, who of course was Starman, who you said reminded you of the alien in Two Talented Bastards.
Oh my God. Jen.
We also have a mention of sometimes they come back. It's not a mention, but it's us calling on a dead relative to help us fight new fictional ghosts.
I thought you said that they ran into a room and there was a book about
and then
occult.
The part when he cuts his thumbs off too. Yeah.
Well, there's actually a reference to an Antarctic expedition that's in the third Sometimes They Come Back or whatever movie.
Sometimes Cujo comes back.
All right. I love this story. It's our number one, but I want to play devil's advocate.
Ooh.
Is it redundant that we have another wrongfully accused arc, much like Danny Coughlin?
Oh, with the cop, you mean?
Yeah.
Or the retired cop?
I never thought of it that way. I never, honestly, when I was reading it, I wasn't making the comments because you could say, it's a wrongfully accused, but at the same time, the cop in this is so much different than
he is. Yeah.
And Vic is so much different.
Well, now here's the question. Did any of us but Mike read this before we read Danny Coughlin? Because I read Danny Coughlin first, and it didn't bother me in Rattlesnakes because I was so into the story.
And it was much later, too, I guess.
Yeah, but I could see if I was reading Danny Coughlin after, I'd be like, why are we doing this again?
Mike, you'll never read out of order again, will you?
I won't. No, I had to with this. It just there was no fucking way in hell I was going to have the restraint. It was hard. The King's Dominion, pretty good with this one, or do you? So the Do McKee works for you. So and Steve Kemp.
That was totally worked.
Come on my sheets.
Yeah,
exactly.
The Do McKee thing, though, like you said, Dan, that seems so specific. I know it plays into the theme of the story about dredging things up and letting them go, but I think he's setting something up there. If not a direct sequel to the Fremantle story, the Edgar Fremantle story, then something with
interesting
those weird old ghosts out there.
It feels like a particular character that wanders into the end of, I think it's the Wizard in Glass, but it might be the Wastelands. And you're like,
or even Dedication.
Or even dedication.
Hey, come on the sheet, Steve Kemp.
yes,
my
it's so
God.
good.
Maybe
Anyway,
it is the
It's
Steve
just
Kent
a lovely story, and I
Holly
moved
starts
reading it.
dating a new guy. Steve
God,
Kent.
Holly
How-
starts
He's a
dating
tennis
Steve
pro.
Kent.
I don't know. We're
Is this story still in your top if we get Cujo?
I don't need Cujo.
No.
No Cujo?
Let
No,
him rest in peace.
Well, you
now,
don't have
if
Cooge
he's
running around
driving
like he does evil
Christine,
things.
then yes.
maybe he's hanging out with the twins. Yeah.
What if it was just like the story's incredible, and then they're like, and there's something that kids will not go, and he's like, first something happens where he's like, oh, I've got to go find where they buried the bones of Cujo because it relates to my trauma of my life. Would you have thrown the book out the window, or would you have killed yourself? What happened?
Yeah.
Or, like, he can't get the twins to go, and so he just dog whistles, and then Ghost Cujo runs
Oh
and
my
like, pushes
god!
him.
I mean,
with Frank
final
Dodd's red
pushover.
eyes.
You know, I feel like the maximum amount he could have gotten away with would have been like if he just saw the ghost of Cujo like walking next to the stroller for a second
Yeah.
or something. Like I
Yeah.
don't think you can go.
And I would have
further
been
than
okay
that.
with that.
Or he heard a
that I
growl.
liked it.
Or he's
something like
chasing
that.
after a red Plymouth Fury, and it says, "I
Yeah.
am Fury, I am Christine." On the bumper
Or he
sticker.
gets rabies. What if he got rabies? From
That
the
would
snake?
that would be good.
Well,
Oh, how nasty when she gets her face eaten off too.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
It's disgusting.
It's
I mean,
disgusting.
this is an example of there's some severely nasty stuff in the story, but I would not say it's a nasty story.
same. I cried.
I
At least
did
twice.
too. I read this in the morning with coffee, sunny out, and I could not stop thinking about those images of the twins. I just it just was so scary to me. And it's not all of them, but that guest room. I put the book down. I go like I
That's
never
the
do
Lincoln
that.
of the
I just
Bordeaux, Dan. That part that Mike's talking about. That's the Lincoln in the Bordeaux
Yeah.
part. But
It is so
almost,
scary.
almost peacefully sleeping.
yes,
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously
these
disturbing.
giant bodies that are just they're all symmetrical.
No,
like
the-
it's just
The giant bodies remind me because in Link, as beautiful as Lincoln in the Bordeaux is, there's a character who died with an erection, has this big bulbous
Yeah.
penis
Mm.
the whole time. Like every character in Lincoln in the Bardo has some kind of grotesquerie attached to it, which is why it reminded me of that. I think Saunders and King are fans of each other, right? Am I
I wouldn't know
wrong about
that. I don't think I've read Saunders talk about him, but
Let's
you know
see.
what? We'll never know.
We'll
I
never
know Saunders and Jeff Tweedy are fans of each other. They always
Ah.
comment on each other's work, but
Well,
let's see.
You mentioned earlier, Jen, about the blueberry muffins in Two Talented Bastards. I have a funny anecdote in that when I was reading this, I read this story first, and I immediately ordered oatmeal raisin cookies that morning. I like big fucking oatmeal raisin cookies from a bakery or whatever. I had to get it, and then I read Bastards, and I was like, I got to get myself a blueberry muffin. And I was coming back from the doctor's, and I could not. Everywhere I went that morning, no one had a blueberry muffin. And I finally get one, and it was like the stalest muffin ever, and I was so disappointed. But it made me realize, I was like, man, who would have thought Stephen King, out of all people, would get me hungry? And this book is full of food. Like it's chicken salad sandwich he has. There's one other one that I missed. The breakfast that you're talking about in Finn, that was great. He could be a food writer. He's got some good stuff here. Anyone else am I alone on this? I mean, I know you like sweets, Calf. Were you kind of sitting there going like, I want an oatmeal raisin cookie?
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. I actually, there's a legendary cookie franchise here in New York called Levain. I call it Levans. I think it's called Levain's. And they're almost like scones. And I was in there the other day right after reading this, and I got the oatmeal chocolate chip because of that. I was like, ooh, I got to get some rattlesnake cookies.
Yeah. I like that stuff. It's fun. But all right, we did it.
It's fun.
Well, no, I mean, I
love
love having that sort of. It's probably why like merchandising and marketing works so well on me. Is that like if I can live beyond the story and enjoy it through food or fucking merch, I'm going to do it.
Well,
It's
okay,
pathetic.
I'll put it this way. A lot of these stories take place in Florida. I will tell you. At the end of Lori, I was remembering going to a restaurant. I think it was called, oh God, it had gator in the title. But let's just say I've had maybe some fair share of alligator in my time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was definitely
That's
getting
good.
hungry for some alligator. It's like little chicken nuggets, basically.
Yeah,
Look,
I love it because you get to eat them and you're like, fuck these
Gator
guys.
Like, fuck these
I would
assholes.
say once a month I eat something solely because I saw it in a film or a book or whatever. Like I bought a king size candy bar to eat with utensils while I was watching Seinfeld. I Susan made me a spaghetti sandwich.
I remember that
when I was in my Eminem phase and listening to a lot of him because he has that mom spaghetti restaurant. I mean, all the time, always going.
It's great.
Going for food that I see in movies.
And books.
It does it for me. I love it.
Yeah, same.
Well, this has been a great chat. We got to give our final thoughts.
Dad, can we go now?
You ready?
Yeah, we've been ready for an hour.
Okay, I'll be right there.
You said that a half hour ago. Yeah, my dad's weird. He gets like that when he's writing.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go. I'll just say out the bat, I'm giving this 5 Bright Red Pennywise Clown Noses. Favorite
nice.
King collection since, I don't know, man. Maybe Night Shift. Like I really love that. Maybe I'm overhyping it. I don't know. I just think he was displaying new gifts in this while also doing what we love about him. Everything was so economical. Like he just had a mess. He just seemed like he knew what he was doing with this. And once again, I know that these are cobbled together somewhat, but I don't want to say I've liked a lot of King books recently, but it was just cool to be wowed by him in this kind of way again, this late in the game, and in a wowed in a way that was so unexpected. If you had asked me a couple years ago, like, hey, you want a Cujo sequel? I'd be like, I don't know about that. And I couldn't have predicted where it would have gone. I feel like it's all thematically very linked. And at the same time, we're getting all the different sides of his horror. We're getting some creature horror. We're getting some cosmic horror. We're getting some everyday slice of life horror. It's like, yeah, like I said, all the balls in the air. I think he's just showing the diversity of his gifts while also making sure he knew why all these stories were in the same collection. So yeah, absolutely loved it.
Jen.
I think before we started talking, I would have given this 4, but I think I'm going to give it 5. I think I loved it. I don't know if I'm ready to rank or say which ones I like the best. Skeleton Crew is still my favorite collection, but this feels like the opposite end of the spectrum, but it still is terrifying, but it also is really moving. I think I talk a lot about how I don't really believe happy endings are real because everybody dies, everything ends. And I think this collection says that's okay. Like it's okay to still find joy and still find horror, even though, nothing means anything and everything means everything. And we can just kind of sit back and like let the sun, bask us in its horrific glow. And I just really enjoyed it. Even Finn that I ranked lowest, I still really liked. And I don't think there's a bad one in the bunch. So yeah, 5 for me.
Justin.
Yeah, again, no bad stories. I would say if you looked at the 12 titles, I would say maybe 5 of them are okay to find.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Which slightly dings it. But on the flip side of that, I mean, the 4 or 5 best and the longest range from very good to great. And so I think that does kind of kick it up a notch for me. I was genuinely surprised with what happens in the 5th step, with where we are taken, and the Answer Man specifically, of course. And like you, Mike, there was not one moment before I sat down and started reading Rattlesnakes where I thought that story was going to end up anywhere other than a pit with kids trapped with rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Startled, stunned. Again, The Answer Man is my favorite short story of his in decades. This is my favorite collection of his in decades. This is my favorite work from him since Revival, which I am looking forward to revisiting, which I have not revisited since first reading it.
Finally get there.
I cannot wait. I can't believe it.
It's literally like a month away, I think.
This is my
God, that's already daunting. I guess
starting tonight.
Oh my God. Having said all that, I loved it a lot. I'm going to have to give it overall 4 Bright Red Pennywise Clown Noses out of 5. A must read for sure.
Hey, yeah. This has been a great conversation. I mean, it's certainly elevated for me.
Definitely.
I echo everything you're all saying. There's nothing awful in this collection. I think the previously published works speak to why they were maybe plugs for publications. Mostly, not all of them, but mostly. But I mean, there are a handful of Alzheimer's in here. All but one of the originals, in fact, for this book. If you can, because I wouldn't count Danny Coughlin as an all-timer for me, but all the rest of them, absolutely. And I think those reveal a side of King that I hope hints at another hot streak.
Yes.
I've said for years now, King's stealth flex is bruising our hearts. There are blows and rattlesnakes, bastards, and certainly the Answer Man, which could honestly be the fucking jawbreaker to send us to the mat. There are the moments I relish. That's what I want from him at this point. So the fact that we got a handful of those here, that's a fucking win. And then to really top it, and ultimately why I put rattlesnakes as number one, is that he genuinely scared me. Mm-hmm. And I can't say, and I've said that about stories that we've covered from the past, like N and 1408. And I was not expecting that here because, those stories are 15, 20, over 20 years old now. So to get a story like rattlesnakes, those fucking aging toddlers in those beds just laying there, that's an image I want to take to the grave. And I just didn't expect that. So I was originally going to go 3.5, but I'm going with 4. I'd have to really assess where I'm at with this, but I've always said that the short stories are my favorite of King's, and to get one great while we're doing this in our run, because this is technically the first collection of short stories that was released while we were still public. Yeah, I think we're still doing the podcast. It's pretty fucking cool, and I was pretty jazzed. So yeah, 4 for me. Last question. This is a little macabre, but he takes 7-8 years sometimes between collections. Is this the last collection we get?
I am recusing myself from answering for fear of jinxing.
Yeah, I think that there are other short stories out there that he'll publish.
Yeah.
Well, we could get a posthumous collection.
Well, that's what sure.
But if it is the last one, what a way to go out.
I only mention that not just in the sense that, this is going to be it, and then he's his final book. He says in this afterward himself how short stories are hard. They're tough for him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if he kind of was like, I'm good. This is it. So I don't know. But we'll find out. The high tide, it's coming. Before we get swept away in that whirlpool, let's gather our things and tell everyone where we're going to go next. Justin, what do we got? The Halloweenies coming up.
Oh my God. Well, Dan and I are knee deep in the Alien vs. Predator entries for this month. Both entries, Alien vs. Predator and Alien vs. Predator Requiem, are going to be out in May. If you're listening to this in May, get ready.
Kind of eyes deep. You know what I mean?
Eyes deep. I'm trying to see if I could see something. And of course, I know Mike, Mac, and Rachel, they went ahead and covered The Crow. I think 2 episodes on The Crow. Look, for our Patreon, patreon.com/HalloweeniesPod. You'll listen, if you haven't subscribed to our Patreon, you could start now. You'll never run out of content. Mm-hmm. So get ready. It's like I look at my bookshelf, I'm like, you know what? I'll never read all these books, but I'm actually content with that. So just go, start the journey. Keep it going. There's so much to do.
There's a ton in there. I like how we chose The Crow as like an easy one too.
I knew. I was like, oh boy, I'm not going to be doing that one. I got
fucking
to do.
Christ. We're so exhausted by the end. We had to split up in 2 nights, which is wild. Jen, which lady is killing next?
Well, we are knee deep in the middle of Killer Mothers Month, and we just recently recorded our episode on Antichrist, which we recorded on Mother's Day, so that was a fun, bright spot, But we've also got an episode on Scream 2 coming out, and then our reigning one right now is Evil Dead Rise. And then after that, we're covering some fun summer movies, and we're going to kick it off with Sleepaway Camp. So lots of fun stuff coming up.
The good thing about Sleepaway Camp is that it's not controversial at all, so you can just have a fun time.
No, not at all.
Easily.
No. Yeah.
I'll say this. There's never been a more entertaining Friday night than catching up on Hacks and being 4 episodes in and going, God, I love this show so much, to then Sammy saying, we got to watch Antichrist next. And I'm like, all right.
I'm loving Hacks as well. I will.
It's been so good. It's just, but it was just such a fucking 180 to go from that show to Antichrist. And she had never seen it. I'd seen it years ago. I just couldn't remember all of it. And
well, to be fair, Mike, if you think about it, Hacks is also full of ballbusters.
That is true.
That's true.
I watched, I was in Chicago Friday night, home alone. I watched Antichrist and Apocalypto back to back.
Oh,
God. I don't know why I did that.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, Caffrey, are you on our next book? We're doing Revival.
I'm
are you on
that
that?
Not on Revival. I think I'm on Bizarre Bedrooms. I want
Yes.
to say.
I'm on Revival.
Which Bizarre we got coming up next. We got a lot of reading up ahead.
Yeah.
So Jesus Christ. And then we've got the Mercedes trilogy that's going to be rounding out. We've got still a lot of books to come this year. God, this is a lot of fun. I love doing these new book episodes, but to be able to do the short stories, it's always a treat. And the fact that we get to go into Bizarre soon is fucking awesome. Revival into Bizarre that's unreal. Just a smiling big time. Well, I hope you are too, and I hope that you found the answers that you're looking for tonight. Rest assured, we'll have plenty more time to find them over long days
and pleasant nights.
I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. I got some hot friends. God, I got some hot friends. But you know you want somebody to treat you good.
You like it darker, don't ya?
This is the end of our show. For now. We hope you enjoyed this production. If you like our programming, consider searching for other Bloody Disgusting podcasts, such as Creepy, Horror Queers, The Boo Crew, SCP Archives, Nightlight, Margaret's Garden, and more.